I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Tonight's agenda is we're going to be starting right on the budgets. And at 6 o'clock, we've got Jim Hicks for the emergency management, 6:15. Sauhi and Valley Ambulance Service, 6:30. The police department at 7:30. The fire department. You've got a busy night.
You are got a positive attitude on that.
If it's all right with you, Jim and I swapped. I can go first. If it's okay with you guys, to mess up your agenda.
No, we want to take that under consideration.
For 15 minutes, you can take it under consideration.
I don't have a problem with it. On the bottom was Joe's amended budget. We have the most recent one. This is one we just brought this in.
That's yours. No, I'm writing down what the most such a portion is.
I don't know if I had one or not.
My bad, sorry.
Is this the only thing we have in the order? So you have? Yes, it's a warrant article. Oh, right, of course.
You're good?
I'm good.
So I know we're a warrant article, but I figured we'd still share our budget line items with you. So our budget this year, or 2018, we propose a higher budget, but for the towns, we propose it to stay the same. And we're gonna offset that with anticipated income. Our call volume has consistently gone up. It went up last year. Last year was a high 509 calls, and this year we're already at 479 calls. So we anticipate our income to be significant, that we can offset that increase in our budget. So the town's portion should not go up. Last year, I know we just gave you that slip and it says 119,200 for town portions, but that's also included in Greenville. So New Ipswich's town portion should stay the same for our warrant article of 84,369.76, as it was last year.
Where do we don't have that though, right?
You should see it on the side there. You don't have the 84, right?
That's the number I'm looking for, the 84.
So here, this is, and that's based upon the 2010 per capita figures of
That's it.
5,099 for New Ipswich. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So that's how it's broken down. So it's 84,369.76 for New Ipswich and 24,834, 24 for Greenville. I'm sorry I didn't put that on that sheet. I meant to, and I just ran out of time.
Say that Greenville number again, please.
Greenville number 34,830.24, and that's, again, off the census numbers. That should go up again in what, 2000, when do you do it, 2020? Every 10 years the census?
10 years out.
Is it 10? Yes, I can remember. So that's that.
Are you able to do pretty good with collecting from
Insurance companies?
Insurance and maybe, what is it, Medicare or Medicaid or whatever?
Yeah, we have a pretty good collection rate so far. Of course, you can only pretty much collect what the insurance company's gonna give you. Their Medicare is set at their rate. They're not paying you anymore, regardless if you're billing $100,000, they're only paying you their set rate. And other insurance companies, if you have an agreement with them that you sign their contract, they basically do the same thing. They'll pay you their set rates. And of course, all the ambulance rates.
Isn't that interesting? The government has to sometimes do something,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, okay, that's it, no more.
Too bad taxpayers couldn't do that.
Necessary evil, unfortunately.
So I see that new heater system is actually helping out.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
Absolutely.
It helped a lot. That was a great idea. Yeah, we also changed our LED, we changed our fluorescent lights in the building to LED lights as well to help produce electricity. So we're doing a lot to save costs and save money too, and it significantly worked.
Question for you
Yes,
is
sir.
that, looking at the two lines that made the largest increase in what would have been your proposed 2018 budget was the salaries and wages
Yeah, payroll.
and the equipment fund. So under salaries and wages, is there any increase in coverage, or
Yes.
is this?
There's two things. One is we increased coverage, we just actually changed as of November 1st, I changed our per diem schedule. We used to have one person on call all day, and then I changed that so that we have two people at the bay all day instead of one person. We'd have one on call, and then one was per diem, so we'd actually still be waiting. So not only do I put two people at the bay from 8 to 4, we also have them responding immediately, so we're not, that's also gonna increase the availability. They're still on call for 2 hours at the beginning and 2 hours in the end, but I've reduced that chance of somebody not being at the bay.
So two people are at the bay for 4 hours?
No, 8 to 4.
Oh, 8 to
Yeah,
4.
8 to 4. They're there for 8 hours a day. Normally, I only had one person there for 6 hours. So I've actually put two people there for 8 hours. And it's kind of, the way the system works, so you pay somebody to be on call, but then if they go out on the call, in addition to that, they get the 2-hour minimum. So I kind of technically save $3 every time that they're on call, if they're at the bay. So now I'm not paying them their $6 for on call, because they're already per diem at the bay. So we're gonna see it. It should wash out, like, you know, I had a call this morning at 6:30, but I had to pay them both their own call pay for $6. But, so I think in the long haul, it'll even out, because we had, I think, 2 calls today, and they were both there right at the bay and responded immediately, so I think it's better coverage, it's a better system. I don't know why I didn't do this years ago. But the increased call volume is something that we just can't anticipate. We
What
still
did,
have to pay
you
them.
said the numbers earlier, that something about
Yeah.
you're up to 400 and something now,
179.
versus what would it have been at this mark last year?
You know what, I looked in October, I think it was October 10th, I had looked, and I think we were up almost 30 calls.
This year?
This year, yeah, and right now we're at 479, so if you want to do the math for the days. At one point I figured out it was 1.8 calls per day, then it dropped down to like 1.6 calls per day, and I guess you can skew your numbers any way you want, depending on what week you look at, and if you have a quiet week and you do it, well, now you dropped your numbers because it was a quiet week. So I try not to do that too often. But statistically, our call volume has gone up. You know, the good news is we also anticipate income to go up, which it did again this year, which is why we can offset next year's budget with, you know, more income than we had planned on earning. I think we had said 190, and next year we're gonna put in 220. That's another $30,000 in income that we're gonna offset our budget with, so.
Are you looking to make any other coverage?
Well, we already cover 24 hours a day with our on-call and what we have at the bay. I'm certainly not gonna man 2 ambulances during a day, that's not feasible. I think we're in good shape, we really are. Our, actually, staffing is pretty good, don't get me wrong, can always use more help, but
So is it that you were saying 8 to 4 is 2 people are on, then what happens from 4 to 8? Is it just on-call people?
yeah, it's just on call. The same 2 people, like those same 2 people do a 12-hour shift. They start at 6 in the morning, but from 6 to 8, they'll be on call. Then they'll go to the bay from from 8 to 4.
Yeah.
And then from 4 to 6, they'll be on call. Customarily, well, since we've done this in the beginning, I've had one person at the bay for 6 hours, and then they would swap off. The other person would be at the bay for 6 hours, and then on call for the other 6. So we've kind of just basically increased what we provide by having both people at the bay at the same time.
And then do the same thing again from 6P to 6A?
Well, that's actually on call at night. There's no way we're gonna pay people to stay at the bay at night. It's still on call there.
Just a curiosity question is, with 480 calls, are they predominantly all during the day? Or,
No, it's 50/50.
50/50.
Yeah, we looked at one point, and it's pretty much always maintained somewhere around 50/50, and I haven't looked actually in a long time, but it's normally been pretty much 50/50. It was like 52/48. I can look at it again, and I haven't in a while.
I'd just be
And that includes
curious,
Saturday and Sunday too,
then why would you do the 2 full-time during the day and not,
because of staffing. We don't have people around during the day.
You don't have-
It's the same few people around during the day, and if
Okay.
they have to go out and get other jobs,
yeah,
we're gonna have nobody during the day. That was a big staffing issue that we had 10 years ago.
okay,
whenever out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
You know, if you don't have people during the day and they gotta go out and get another job, people aren't staying to be their local ambulance service at $12 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and that's pretty much what it is. They just, you know, we have the same 3 people that are doing our per diem shifts now.
Then my other question was on the equipment fund, where I remember a few years ago, you actually developed this fund to start.
We've had this fund forever. This fund has been, the same thing has always been.
I thought that just went in within the last 5 years.
No, we spent a lot of money out of the equipment fund updating the ambulance, as opposed, and maybe that's where the discussion comes from, because we were, the anticipation of the equipment fund is to offset the balance of a new ambulance. The problem is that we ran into having to take care of the furnace, we had to take care of,
The roof.
yeah, the roof was one of them. You know, we've had a lot of building expenses, mainly because we just didn't put aside anything to look at it, you know? And so putting money into the equipment fund, I mean, we spend just on our leases, $45,114.96, just on our leases every year. So if you don't.
You're leasing the ambulances?
Yeah, I call it a lease, it's really a loan, but
Okay,
it's the way that, it's the way Ford does it. At the end of the day, at the end of the lease, we give an hour and it's ours.
yeah,
It's just the way that one loan went. So literally, if we had $35,000 in that every year, as we had in the past years, you're literally going down 10,000 out of the equipment fund every year. So at that point, you're never increasing anything to offset the cost of getting another ambulance. Make sense? So when we buy a new ambulance, we have to give a large portion down. If every year goes by that we spend $10,000 out of that just to offset the cost every year, you don't have any money to put towards an ambulance 6 years down the line, 7 years down the line.
I can give you an example. I was on the ambulance service for 22 years. I was on the vice chairman on the board for SVAS for many years. We had a lot of back strains, so that created workman's comp claims. So they just recently, within the year, turned around and went and automated stretchers. And one stretcher alone, automated stretcher, was roughly $24,000 a piece.
It is,
It was an incredible amount of money just to automate, so the attendants didn't have to lift 500-pound patients. So the equipment, and I was supply officer for 17 years there, so that number is definitely right on the ballpark. I mean, a defib unit is roughly $30,000.
well, I think he explained this, I was thinking this was strictly for your ambulance, but you're using it for other items.
it was
also.
always intended to be, as our intention on the board was always to offset the ambulances. But even using just the ambulance alone, like I said, we spend $45,000 a year. If we only put $35,000 into it, we already $10,000 in the hole. And that was going on because we were always trying to offset the cost of the towns, so our budgets didn't go up. Well, we did that for so many years that it came to a point where, what do you do when you get an ambulance? We actually leased them. It used to be in years past, we just literally bought the ambulances outright. Now we're in a position we have to lease them or loan them. But, you know, that's, you know, fiscally responsible. Nobody's got $180,000 to offset to buy an ambulance.
We have invested some money in some sophisticated life-saving equipment. We've now got,
Lucas's.
we've got a thing called a Lucas, and when somebody's in cardiac arrest, this machine gets put on them, and it automatically does the compressions, which gives you free hands to do things like ventilate, do IVs or whatever. And those are some good investments.
Saves on manpower, saves on
And it
injuries.
saves on people.
And
It's
it's
not an
very
easy job to do
accurate.
CPR. It's hard work.
Well, it's long duration too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bought two Lucas's this year too.
Now, collections, I think, reflected the Obama insurance plan, about, you know, that has lessen the amount of people that don't pay. So, you know, the Affordable Care Act has definitely at least dwindled down to us as shown to be a positive, that we don't have as many people that we have hardships for. Before, we would have 2 or 3 hardships almost every single board meeting. And I think we might have 3 all year, 2 all year, maybe the most. So whether that continues with the political climate in Washington and healthcare, you know, that's a deal. I don't know that's gonna end up being, but that definitely, I was dead set against Obamacare, but when they worked it out and the chips fell, it definitely has paid the bills for us.
Good. Any questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you get your lunch? Thank you.
Okay, Jim.
Okay, the packet that I sent you included, included a sheet that had tires on it, the trailer. Now, I'm gonna be able to buy those tires out of the $1,000 you gave me last year. I had a price to demold the man trailer of $700, and the good company, Serpro out of Westmoreland, is gonna come down and do it for $550, so that gives me enough money to go over $1,000 to buy the tires this year. So I've actually got Fair Tire, I'm trying to, they gave me a good price, but they're gonna see if they can improve the price. But, so that's been taken out of the budget.
Jim, let's start right at the very top,
Okay.
rather than jump down into...
Right.
Do we currently have a deputy? Who would that be?
Mary Beth Conrad.
Okay. And then you're into training. Travel. Computer equipment.
I have an old computer. And what we're doing now is a lot of the training is done in webinar. I did 2 this week, we did 1 last week. We've probably done 5 or 6 in the last month. It seems to be the trend is to go to the webinars and do the training. And the problem is the computer I have locks up half the times. I've had to do some of them 2 or 3 times and I'll get the whole webinar. And it's an old computer. It actually,
How old is it?
well, it was back when we were doing health, just, when we were doing health plans, so it's, I don't know, it's probably somewhere around 2007, 2008, probably 10 years anyway. It's got, Microsoft 7, Windows 7, I guess it is the operating system. And price of the computer guy, I did upgrade they had a free 10 upgrade, and I think that took a mediocre computer and made it worse. It didn't help, but computers just not what we need to do it. The other thing they're doing is they're not giving us stuff anymore. You have to download it. So sometimes I have to download 30 or 40 pages of something, because that's how they distribute stuff. Before they used to send out a lot of information written, and they just not doing that. Then they went to actually doing a lot of stuff on DVDs and stuff doing that. Because the computer industry's decided they don't want DVDs. That's how they get a DVD drive. So I got a quote from Cadnet there on what he thinks.
So is Cadnet the town's preferred vendor?
They do our service.
And he he's actually looked at it a couple of times and kind of just shrugs his shoulders and thinks, you know,
What was the increase in the communications? Is that this Beltronics invoice?
right. So we put aside $335 last year, if you remember, for batteries. And he's got all but one battery for what we're talking, and it may be that he's not gonna be able to get that, the units are low. Kenwood's not making them anymore, and he's looking at aftermarket. And if not, the other possibility, I guess, is to go to battery space, because they'll actually rip the battery apart and
But I'm just trying to follow along with your backup in the,
This is trailer maintenance.
okay. So what's the 980 for? Under communications?
No, that is, the 980 is for telephone and fax and,
Why would we be doubling what we were last year?
I don't know. We're not doubling what we were, they,
Oh. Roughly. We had 504 and now you're 980, just out of curiosity.
yeah, I don't know why that's 504, it's, whatever it is, I don't create, that number's for the telephone line and the fax line, and I think a piece of the internet. Okay, a piece of internet service.
Yeah.
That's what that number, so why that went to 504?
Well, it went
That's gotta be
to,
a misprint.
well, it went to 504 and we've only spent 335.
I think last year we took it out. Remember we had some kind of, I think it was the fax thing that we took out and put under GGD, I think.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
okay, so then that should be brought back down to 504.
Yeah.
But you took the fax out of the phone?
I think the phone.
But if we've only spent 335, do we have, is that a monthly bill?
Yeah.
But that's through
Or you still
September.
have them.
That looks
Yeah,
to
that's
me
why I'm
like,
asking if it's a monthly bill.
that looks to me like the fax monthly bill. I'm sorry, the batteries were under the general supplies.
Could that be more like 350?
That-
504?
That page is only through September.
Right.
There's gotta be other bills in the past 2 months that aren't on that sheet.
They're gonna be big ones, December.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's like $100 a month, roughly, 90-something.
No, you gotta be roughly $33 a month.
No, it's not that, I can give you 2 seconds.
Sure.
One of my lots.
I don't know how we've only paid $355 and at night.
Yeah. $37 a month.
Oh, while we're waiting, I had a point. We took quite a bit of money for the fund balance for the taxes this year, right?
Correct.
Which
Well,
we
it depends
won't-
on what's quite a bit.
300,000.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes.
Which we probably won't be able to do next year, you think, or? we would have-
I,
Anticipate.
yeah, but I would probably say no, we wouldn't.
So in other words, we will have a tax increase even if it was a level funded budget next year.
This budget has no impact on your taxes, I hate to tell you that.
No, I'm talking generally speaking.
Generally speaking, if the school department had a level funded budget from what they had last year, and we stayed at what we are this year, yes, there'd be a tax increase. Unless revenues went up. There are things that offset your taxes. We have to look at both sides of the equation. That's what the DRA does for us, is looks at all the revenues.
Well, anyway,
The
I
strip
did
mall.
find out that Greenville had that issue where they offset taxes last year, didn't have the money this year. It was a huge increase. Their taxes went up $6.80 a thousand
This year,
this year.
yeah, well, it went down last year.
Or even if they stayed the same, whatever it was.
I have
it's-
here, they went down a little over $1 from the previous year.
So they went down.
Yeah, but then almost $7 now. I mean, that's
The
But
fastest
was it only, I mean, didn't follow what their
10%.
warrant articles and everything else were that they voted on last year, but I
It's
know,
just point to Spinney's catching up with them.
So the
Just like it-
504 should remain the same.
but I also, I'm pretty sure that if I remember right, they passed every warrant article that went before that last year.
Point well
Wow.
taken.
All I'm
I
looking,
think
she
I
just
tried
pulled
to
out
run it
last
every
year's,
year,
how we got to 504. And it was that, they were charging you for a portion of the Comcast, which went away. We don't charge the Comcast. So, the 504 is based on the Fairpoint bill.
Okay. So that number should get changed to 504.
Yeah. Can you just give us a quick blurb on what you've got trailer maintenance, and I'm looking at this backup.
Did you look at tonight's backup?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, you were giving me $1,000 last year, and I've got a company that's gonna be in the $900 range. I've got a company cleaning it, and I've got 4 tires coming out. The tires were very old, and very cracked, and obviously not worn, but severely cracked. So this year, what we wanted to do was to get the communications equipment inside it to snuff. We thought we were gonna have to buy a UHF radio because the bus company that now serves the school is on UHF and nothing else in town is. And so the fire department had some radios they brought over to the radio shop, and one of them happened to be a UHF radio, and the radio shop called and said, "What are you doing with a UHF radio?" And they said, "We didn't know it was one." You know, they all kind of look the same. So that was gonna be $390 from, and that's why I took out the $390, because we're gonna use that radio. We've got no use for it, so that we can talk. So, also in that was $50 for a UHF antenna for that radio, which we don't have, which I can buy out of this year's $1,000. So I reduced that by $440, basically. The rest of it is them checking the radios that are in there. I don't know, did those ever get narrowband, Tim? Which ones? The trailer ones? No. No, so he's gonna have to go in there, narrowband them and test them and make sure they're working. The trailer sat for, I don't know how many years behind the fire station. We need to know that they're working. And he's got to install 2 more radios. He's got to install the UHF radio, install the antenna, tune the antenna for it. And 1 more radio is going to go in there. It's going to be a radio that's going to be airy stuff, and that's what he quoted on that. As a ballpark, I mean, he didn't even want to give me a quote on it because it's like you don't know until you get into it. So I feel as though he's highballed it to cover himself. Because if I was him, I would too. I think it, so it's down to $1,400 now. I mean, my thought was, if it was me, I'd probably put another $1,000 into that and see where you sit at the end of it next year. It should be in pretty good shape and it should be operational.
But I guess from my perspective, being a layperson, I really don't know what I'm buying for $1,400. You've told me what we've taken out from the price to get it down.
And so the equipment that's been sitting there hasn't been looked at for 10 years.
So he's gonna service the equipment that's in there, which is that radios and that type of equipment?
Right, so. yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of other radios that have to be put in, upgraded.
When it says reinstall required equipment, is that the UHF radio that you're talking about?
No,
No.
no, the third item was to install a UHF radio. You see, his third item?
Right, but what's the first item that says reinstall required equipment?
Well, reinstall the radios that were in there. Because
Radios.
Yeah, they're being pulled out while we sterilize the inside of it.
Oh, okay.
So has there been any maintenance on this trailer prior to 2017?
Who's responsible to do that?
Yeah, why wouldn't we?
No, just,
All right, so I came last year and said, you know, we got this trailer sitting there, nothing's been done to it, it's full of mold, it needs this, it needs that, and we could have used it. There was a couple of instances here in town that we could have used it, and that was since the ice storm. That's when the last time it was touched. So the board approved $1,000 for me to, and I had said at the time, I don't know whether this is more money than I need or not enough money than I need. But we need to start somewhere, so we put $1,000 in, the company's cleaning and taking all the mold out of it.
Which trailer are we referencing?
This is our trailer. The town got a trailer, oh boy, back, it was actually dedicated to Bill Edmonds. That's how long.
So,
14 years ago,
is that the red one or the white one?
the red one.
So just my question is, from the ice storm until last year, whose responsibility was it to check the trailer and make sure that it was not going to pot sitting out there behind the fire department?
I would say the fire department. It was their responsibility. They had possession of it.
But you're saying it's an emergency management trailer
No,
and it's got,
no,
okay.
no. It actually was given by FEMA for the fire department, the police department, and emergency management to use whenever they needed it. That was its
Okay.
purpose. So, but the fire department took possession of it.
Okay.
That was back with Rick Hewitt, actually. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, Rick Hewitt's the one that got that. So last year when I came in, that's when I stated my case and said, you know, it's sitting out there, it's no use to us the way it is, number one. Number two, if we ever get audited, they're not gonna give us another piece of equipment because we'll let this one go the way it has. But I think Mr. Lage last year said that we would like it to be the responsibility of emergency management, and that's why I'm here doing this.
Okay.
I probably did.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody took responsibility for it, because I've seen it just slowly deteriorate over the years, and it's
Now, is this the one that's up against the building
Right now.
now?
kind of sad that all that went to pot. It really is. That was a
Well,
nice
it's coming
trailer.
back, it's coming back. I mean, we had a propane truck flip, 2 years ago.
Yep.
We could have used it that time.
Sure.
Could have gone up there, but it's
There's
not
been
been
multiple
used.
incidents.
It's called preventative maintenance.
Right.
It's gotta be on somebody's radar.
The only thing that's been maintained on there is the 2 generators, which were actually mine. Not mine, but the emergency management. But I saw it to the fact.
So all those so all the radios and everything sat in there for 10 years just going to pot?
Radios, computers, printers.
Can I speak for a second, Jim?
Yeah.
That whole trailer, after the ice storm we had,
Mhm.
was merely closed up and parked. It was
Okay.
never deconned, it was never maintained up until last year when
Jim took it
emergency
on.
management took it over.
That's sad.
That is an
It really
emergency
is.
services trailer for use for all 3 services in town, police, fire, and emergency management. That's how that was set up, that's how it was designed. That's why there's multiple radios, multiple pieces of equipment, so that we can use it as a mobile command center when the event arises. And we've had multiple events that we could have used that at since then. It's been out of service. This money is merely to rehab and put it back into service.
Well, I-
My concern is, are we gonna spend this money and then it's gonna go into mothballs again?
Yeah,
We're gonna be going
that's
through
what
this all
I'm-
over again. I mean, somebody gifted this to us, I guess, 10 years ago?
No,
I was longer than that.
Well, 15, however many years ago. And it must have been worth how many tens of thousands of dollars?
Mhm.
And we used it once and then forgot about it. That's my concern. Are we gonna do this and then hey, everything's up to snuff, great, park it behind the fire department, in 10 years, we're gonna go, hey, that trailer fell apart. I just,
Oh, we need it and it's not usable.
right, so I would just hope that if we do this, it doesn't,
Well,
just,
Mr. Wage took it sort of out of the responsibility of the fire department last year. I guess you don't remember that discussion, but you said, if we do this, I want you to do the work and be responsible for it.
That sounds like you, David.
hey,
Sure,
Mr.
sure.
Doyle's looking for attention.
So basically what you're saying is you're gonna take $1,000 you still have left from last year that, with the guesstimate to get started, you're gonna add 1,400 this year, and at what state will that bring this trailer to? Are you gonna expect another 10,000 next year, or is it gonna be more or less serviceable with some minor addition?
Right, at the end of this year, the first $1,000 will have been spent.
Right, and then 14 for next year.
Right, and 14 for next year should bring all the communications equipment up and operating and serviceable. The only
So
thing
your
I
best
could-
guess, right now is that after $1,400, we will have a relatively serviceable trailer, and it will need some minor maintenance and maybe a few repairs that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I can't imagine, I mean, it's,
Okay.
But this is something, if we want it maintained,
We're
this is
assuming
probably.
it's gonna be maintained from this point on.
Right, so we might see a line item, this line item, every year going forward, but not $1,400.
Right, we're talking about minor maintenance and new tires and that type of thing, well, you get,
yeah, that'll be done
Well,
this year.
you know, paint job or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be another 10,000 next year to refinish the whole thing again.
Any questions?
No.
Do I have a motion for a revised budget value of 11,127?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Who's that total again, please?
11,127. Bless you.
I missed how we got there.
I just changed from 980 to 504.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
I subtracted it, that's why.
Oh.
Thank you.
Two budgets here, I'm gonna guess that you both, 3 and 19. What's yours, Paul? Just so I'm on the same page.
70305.
walk us through your budget?
How would you like me to walk you through
Right up at the top, start with top lines.
it? 2018 budget is showing a 3% increase over last year's budget. Major increase, again this year, is salaries, which is up by about $3,800 from last year. The part-time salary line is actually down by 400. Prosecutor line is also down by 1,500. Overtime salaries is the inflation here.
How did the prosecutor go down? Did they
Yeah.
divide the,
What we did was, the group has been working towards extending the yearly average, so now we're taking a 10-year block
okay,
based on case volume,
yeah.
and that lowered our yearly,
So if it's a 10-year block, how often will they look at it? Every
Every
5 or every year?
we're looking at it every year. And what we're running into now is we're starting to see our numbers from the earlier years, which were really high, starting to drop off, so that's lowering the average, showing the decrease
Okay,
in that line.
thank you.
Now, what I'm seeing for the trend right now, over the last 2 to 3 years, and it's all based on staffing, is our arrest numbers are down. So if our arrest numbers are down, then that's gonna decrease what we're paying into the prosecution. So it's based on the 10-year average and population. That's how that works out.
Now, are we being affected by the change in where they're hearing court cases? Because I know what they're saying, you can't go just to Jaffrey or Key anymore, you gotta go all the way to...
We're traveling all over the place to have court cases heard. District Court has just decreased their court days by another 15% from last year. So virtually what we're seeing is we have a judge sitting in Jaffrey about 1.5 days a month, servicing 12 towns.
Right. No, I was reading the
So-
article in the paper, and on the news, on MUR, they're saying that they're traveling, you got local towns going all the way out to Manchester.
Absolutely. And the other
And then they get there and they don't get called, he goes back home, he's gotta go back the next day.
This figure for our prosecutor line is for district court only.
Okay.
Okay, that's not going to affect our felony level cases that end up in Superior Court, which is in Nashville.
But is it affecting this huge increase in overtime pay?
It will.
Okay.
And what we're seeing is the change in the statute as of September in the felonies first law is the increase in overtime is going to be due to the fact that we have to have cases completed. And for an example, we make an arrest at 11 o'clock at night. If it's a domestic felony arrest, they have to have all of their paperwork submitted to Nashua South by 8 o'clock in the morning. So the overtime incurred is going to be for that officer staying over to make sure that all his paperwork is complete to be able to be sent to the county attorney's office for prosecution. Then, that will start the chain of events in that further on down the road, if it ends up in a trial, then we have standby time, and you're absolutely correct, where we spend 4 to 6 hours sitting in Nashua and never get called. So those types of things, it's a trickle down.
Mhm.
It's being pushed down to the communities from the state.
Right. Yeah.
What was the 3,800 increase? You said there's a 3,800 increase, I thought I heard you say?
That's in the overall salary line for 2018, if the town chooses to give.
I mean, if you total up, I mean, I'm wondering here, how are we doing this? Because between, well, the 375 or almost 376,000 and 17 to 383,
I've got 379, 226 for last year.
for the first line?
Your budget number for last year was 379?
That's what I've got in the proposed budget from last year.
I got 375
I
now.
got
Yeah,
375,
375,
948.
Okay, then we're looking at
We're looking at different numbers, yeah.
Yeah,
6,000? give or take.
4,000. You said you have 379?
Plus 7,000.
375, 948, looking at the town's
2017 budget, yeah.
to 383.
Okay, but that 383, I want to clarify. Is that based on the merit increases given this year, or have you taken salaries and increased them again?
No. Well, the 2% COLA would be for 2018.
Okay,
So
those weren't supposed
the figure
to,
that
you're
is,
shaking your head, yes.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be in that number. We told everybody just come in with your budgets and the board would decide on what we're gonna do for increases.
well, not everybody was told that.
What would that,
So if in fact that's the case, then
do you know what that number would be if, you didn't have that?
379, 226,
correct.
well, 227.
Yep.
It's on page 1 of your
Yep.
handout there.
And that number does take into account the merit raise from this past year.
And it should,
That's
and
the
it should,
salaries-
yeah.
That's the salaries complete. There's
Correct.
no
No,
COLA or anything
Nope.
like that.
no, that COLA is added in.
So
after.
that's base salary across the board, plus holiday pay.
So we're saying the number for 2017 is incorrect?
No.
375.
What we're saying is that it isn't correct because they shouldn't have added a COLA for 2018 until the board decides on what we're going to do regarding.
Oh, so then that number stays for now, until you've made a decision, is that what you're saying?
No, you're saying, so the number that, the 379,227 is a number that should replace
The 380.
the 383.
I see. Do you make any decision on like overtime in that, or is that just anything they can put on that is automatically a go?
That overtime figure, for the first time, I put in there the cost for vacation, sick time, and holiday pay. Or personal time, excuse me. We've never budgeted for that before. That reflects an actual figure of what it costs to cover shifts with personal time or for personal time, vacation time, and sick time.
And I asked him to do that so that we had a real number in there, so it wasn't done to inflate the budget, it was done to show the budget as an actual number. Because there are guys that have worked 4 and 5 hours overtime, and they'll go home early on a shift, so they don't have, the town doesn't have to pay them that overtime. I don't think that's right. If a guy works his overtime hours, he should be paid for it. And that's,
That's what this is.
yeah. I don't,
So where did it show up before?
It didn't,
It was,
because we had people adjusting schedules.
yeah, they move everything around.
But we've come to the point where, you know, these guys need to work full shifts. We've got to have the shift coverage. That's simple. You know, we've got 5,200 residents in town, we expect services. I can't be sending guys home early or adjusting schedules to save on the overtime.
But my question would be this, Tim, is if in the past, have you somehow been able to draw how many hours that works out to be? Or do you just take the amount of offices you have at 2 weeks vacation and then make all of that in overtime for someone else? So in other words, if we have 5 offices and they get 2 weeks vacation, 10 weeks of an officer at time and a half, is that how that?
yeah,
It's
so,
based on the mean average of the 5 hourly officers. That's how that's derived at. The numbers that are actually used are for their actual accrued time that they have to them. And it includes 3 hours of overtime per week. 3 hours. So that's about what we've been doing.
I'm looking at part-time salary.
Yep.
Just trying to think that you've got the new hire in there as a line item. And if we aren't successful again in getting somebody on, and you take your officers that now we're covering vacation time with overtime, is there not, we're gonna reach a point in time where they can't work that many hours physically?
I hope we don't reach that point. I can't say that we won't. I don't have a remedy for it. The only thing I can hope for is that we can fill that position.
We don't use specials anymore,
I have two,
and they can't help with that?
minimal. They both own their own business, they both work out of town.
I mean,
We have 24/7 coverage now?
No.
Okay. Here, Dave, this is what I don't understand. Currently, we have 5 officers, that's not counting a new hire that's not here.
Yep.
Standard work week is 20,080 hours a year. That's including all the vacation and everything.
Yep.
Okay. So 5 officers give us 10,400 hours a year available. And you have 125 hours for part-time.
Correct.
So we have a available pool of 10,525 hours. If we take 365 and multiply it by 24, which would be 24/7, we need to come up with 8,760 hours. If you subtract that from the available hours, we still have 1,765 hours left. And if we take off your overtime of vacation of 400, 160 personal, 160 sick, and 70 court, we still have almost 1,000 hours left over unaccounted for. And if you had 3 hours a week overtime, we're looking at not even, we still have 950 hours of overlap.
But using your equation means that we have one officer on at a time.
I'm assuming we do. If we don't have 24/7, we have to base it somewhere. I mean, I'm sure we have overlaps, but it seems to be a scheduling issue as opposed to,
The scheduling issue is during high-volume hours, namely school year, I run 2 officers during the day.
but if we don't have 24/7 coverage, then we're not mandated to have 24/7 coverage. Therefore, we can take people from different shifts and move them to fill in vacancies for vacation, personal and sick time, as opposed to paying overtime, or use part-time labor. I don't understand why it's automatically assumed that we're gonna pay overtime to cover someone's sick time, or not sick time as much, but personal and vacation time, when we have hours and we're not mandated to have 24/7 coverage. It's a scheduling thing to move it from here to here.
We're not mandated to have 20.
I know.
Are you done? I'm sorry. Finish.
Go
Yep. In my mind, I'm saying, what do you do when you have 3 schools in your town during the day to have 1 officer on?
Cut the schools.
What's that?
I said, cut the schools.
It doesn't change the number of kids that are in there. If you have an event
No,
happen at,
Keep going, just the
Okay.
absurdity just gets crazy. But
It-
keep going.
You need to have officers.
But again, we were talking about a scheduling thing. 2 guys during the day would mean less people at night or early in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what happens now.
So
That's why we don't have the 24/7 every day of the week.
Right. So then why are we, if it's a scheduling issue, and we have the man hours to cover, why are we looking at overtime for vacations?
so I guess, because I guess the question is, so during the day, when we have 3 schools going on, you want 1 officer on?
Yes.
Well, I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I'm saying if you're gonna put 2 officers on, then that officer comes from somewhere else anyway.
So now we only have coverage during the day? We don't have
No,
coverage at night?
I was given the impression that we don't know when we have coverage.
Well, we know when we have
You
coverage.
prefer to keep it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, well, at one point, we had an officer very clearly say when we didn't have police officers on, and there was an increase
Well,
in incidents
I
during those
understand
times.
the need to keep it, but
Flexible.
again, you say we have a need for 2 people during the 6 hours during the day that they're in school.
6 hours?
Well, what time is, if you look at a parking lot at 2:30, it's empty.
I can look at that same parking lot at noontime and say the same thing, but I'm
Okay.
saying,
I'm not saying that we shouldn't
Yeah.
have 2 people during the day. I'm just saying that we are not required by any mandate to have 24/7. Therefore, if we have 2 during the day, we have someone less at night. And we're shifting that way now, and now we're saying somehow we need overtime to cover vacations. We add part-time or increase the part-time hours.
but we can't get the part-timers to come during the day.
Then we have them come at night when we have the 2 cops during the day.
They, as
They are,
Tim says, is that they work full-time jobs.
Yeah,
So they're able to come in on an as-needed basis for reasonable times. But they
Weekends.
can't, yeah,
Basketball
125 hours
is a drop in the bucket.
is a drop in the bucket. So to say you're a part-time officer for 125 hours is not saying I work part-time for the town of New Ipswich. That means I do the minimum to qualify for detail work.
No, that means that they work a minimum amount of time on a part-time. The point being here is, I don't want to, myself personally, as a resident, want to be in a town that doesn't have police 24/7. Okay? I don't know when something's going to happen.
We don't.
But
We
I,
don't have it now.
We don't have it.
I know we don't have it, and why don't we have it? A, we can't even fill a vacant position. So we can't even start looking to say we really need 2 or 3 more officers, because we have a difficult time trying to get people to qualify just for a vacant position that we've had now for 3 years? A year?
June 1st of 16. And here's the thing, the standard, and you're absolutely right, Alan, is the fact that there's no standard saying we have to have 24/7. You're absolutely correct. The standard I'm gonna throw out at you is a national standard that recommends, strongly recommends, 2 officers per 1,000. So now we're a population of 5,200, so 5,000 round figures. We should be at 10 people,
Okay.
okay? We're at 5.
Okay.
So, and that's for officer safety, involvement, that's for community citizens' involvement, and things of that nature. So we're woefully understaffed. But we all know, sitting here at this table, this town will never go for that. So we're just trying to do the best we can with what we have.
I'm just looking, Tim, to go with a 200% or 300% increase on a line item that we haven't budgeted before for. Has it all been absorbed by given time off during another point of their time of work? I mean, because I'm understanding that's how you've been working it now, because we didn't have the budget. So it's, you know, working a few extra hours here, and next week you get a few extra hours off. Is that my understanding?
It's in that pay period.
In that pay period?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a way that we can make this work without such a large increase in that item? In that
I'm giving you
line?
real numbers, David. It's up to you as to what you want to do with them. But I'm just saying, I cannot afford, this town cannot afford to not have the coverage. We're not getting the support from state police. We're not doing it. I know of 15 calls right now the state police has dropped. They've not come out here.
How come
So,
how come they're calling begging for money personally if they're acting like
Look.
that?
I'm New Ipswich.
Yeah,
I don't know what state's doing, Brian.
Well,
I don't have an answer for that.
that irritates me.
The only thing I can tell you is they're short-staffed. The law enforcement staffing shortage is nationwide. Okay, it's not unique to here. There are other municipalities right close by to us that have been trying to fill vacancies, and they pay 10 grand a year more than we do to start. Okay, so it's not unique to New Ipswich. The national narrative about law enforcement right now is in the tank. No one wants to do this job, they don't want to work nights, weekends, and holidays, and they certainly don't want to deal with what we're dealing with out here. So that's where we're at. And state police has minimum staffing on the interstate. The first thing that they pull is the county car. That leaves the local municipalities like us, Greenville, Mason, and others, holding the bag. And at some point, we're gonna have to deal with it. And to answer your question, David, I don't know how to minimize that, unless I go back to.
Let me ask you a question. I'm trying to understand the overtime backup sheet here. The 25,761.
Yep.
What was the 5,581?
That, the 25.7
Yeah?
is just that, those 3 paragraphs total.
Yes. Yeah?
The 5 is for the 3 hours of overtime per week, outside of that.
For an officer to stay and finish that paperwork if he gets a late call or whatever.
Right.
Let me ask, and it's only a drop in the bucket, but, you know, could we get rid of the 5581 and use that? Hey, if tonight you had to stay an extra half hour, tomorrow leave half an hour, or something to that effect.
But that's what we're doing now.
But that is what I thought you were doing now for the 3 line items covering.
No.
No. So on the
If you look back at the prior budgets, David, okay?
Yeah.
Last year, prime example, I think my overtime line was 8 grand or 9 grand.
Yeah, yep,
I'm trying to shuffle vacation, personal, and sick coverage into that line, plus working overtime.
shifting that into that line, which is overtime.
Those 3 lines,
Yes.
right now,
Yep,
we're doing what Alan's suggesting, going to minimum staffing instead of bringing someone in on overtime, running with 1 person to handle those 3 lines. okay?
Yes.
Because of the $8,000 figure I had for overtime.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include someone generating an arrest at midnight has to stay over 3 hours.
That's what the 5,000 would cover.
Correct. So there's two different issues here. The 5581 is for that 3 hour a week overtime issue. The 50 or the 25 is those 3 lines combined. So adding the 25 and the 5 brings you to 31. So now if we take that 5581 as you suggest out of there, that virtually says these guys aren't working overtime.
I'm just looking at vacation hours at 400 hours is based on the 5 officers.
Correct. That does not include the 2 salaried, myself and the lieutenant.
But right now, we only have 3 officers, right?
Yes.
So if we figured in 4 officers, wouldn't that number come down?
Probably.
Well, since we don't have the 5th, or my,
I don't have the 4th.
right.
So how do I,
But I'm saying this is am I figuring this right? This is based on 5 officers,
this is based on what we currently have right now.
including yourself and the
No.
lieutenant. Okay, I'm looking at your sheet. We've got 1, 2, 3 officers currently,
Yes.
and a 4th potential for a new hire.
Actually, I take that back. That doesn't include that 4th officer. But that's 1 week.
Okay, but if you had, I'm just saying if you had 4 officers at 2 weeks, it's 320 hours. And you got 400 hours here.
And you're right. I looked at this 3 times.
Do we run 2 officers during the day during the summer?
Yes.
Well, how can we do it then when there's no school?
Because of court time, because of training time, because of 12,000 cars traveling through here a day,
Yeah, but I mean.
because of call volume, Brian, I mean, what do you want me to do?
You know, before it was the excuse at school, then when it's not school, it's still another excuse.
I don't think they're excuses, I think he's justifying why he has
Legitimate.
police officers on, right?
I think everything
I'm
is-
of the same volition as David when he said earlier that he'd like to see 24/7. That's the opinion I'm of as well, but I'm, as Tim has stated, it's probably not realistic.
Well, yeah,
At this point in time,
when you
so.
put two out, then when we get 24 hours, I can picture of putting 3 officers during the day and then coming up with a problem again. You keep putting
So
more
what,
officers during the day.
Brian? So what?
So what?
Yeah.
Well-
Tell me what? When you need a call at night,
You know
and you
what?
call the police and you don't
Yeah.
get a call, you're gonna be the
And
first
you know what?
person
And I
to
used to be
complain.
able to call many years ago when we didn't have this ridiculous spending on police. I used to be able to call then too.
And what happened?
Well, I don't say that I did it, but I was able to.
Well, you can call
You
them.
can always make the call. It's the response that I'm looking forward to.
Well, you know what, these are the reasons why taxes are so outrageous too.
No, the reason why taxes are so outrageous is because you got a school down the street.
Absolutely, combined with a very expensive town too.
Let me say this.
Compared to
I'm
what,
glad you bring that
Brian?
up, Brian, because I paid my taxes today. And I had a $3,600 tax bill. And you know how much of that portion of my tax bill went to the town of Ipswich?
Yeah.
That gives me police coverage, fire coverage, ambulance coverage, highway department coverage. Here it is, there's my tax bill, Brian. $572 went
Yeah,
to the town of
and
Webster.
look what happens when somebody doesn't watch spending over here in Greenville.
I think you're getting a
But
pretty
that's
good bang
Greenville.
for your
Let's
buck.
stay here in the
You know what?
Ipswich.
From $8.40 to $14.45. And you know what, if we have to let the police and everybody do what they want, that's where we'll be. If we
I
wouldn't
think
have
that's why we're
anybody saying
sitting here,
anything.
so that the chief is accountable for his dollars, and that's why we're having this discussion. He's not able to do whatever he
You know
wants
what?
to do.
I stick up for the taxpayers. If everybody else wanna stick up for everybody else, and that's why we have.
I think this, I think we need to get back on target here.
Yeah.
What was the adjustment when you went to the floor offices, chief?
11,449.60.
20,608.
How many hours did you?
20,608?
608. It's 80% of that number.
So there's 11 off of that number.
How did you do that one?
The 400 was adjusted to what, 320? And what about the 160, 160? Did we adjust them accordingly as well?
That's what I did, Tim. I just took 80% of the number.
Yeah,
That's what I'm-
20,
Yeah.
but I wanna
22,
make sure.
899, 20?
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I thought I heard 20,608.
It is. 20,608 would be 80% of the 25,761. So then,
Oh, okay.
Oh, cause you're cutting the 160, you're cutting the
Okay.
160s as well?
yeah, because those
Okay.
are all proportionate.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 25,761.6 times 0.8. So 2609.28? Or
2608,
Yeah. 2608 is what I
That
got.
you adjusted over.
yes.
Not yet. Correct? Because it's the 2608 adjusts these three line items.
I'm sorry. go-
But then he's got that 5581.
2609.28. I keep counting 2609.
Let me get your new phone.
Because I had 25,761.6 times 0.8, 2609.28.
Yeah, 20609.
Voice of the taxpayer, just last.
Stand down, we just go right up to that. Probably 21,000.
And then adding the 5581 in.
Well, I'm still trying to figure how we can.
I'd rather have it budgeted and not spend it than spend it and then have to explain where it was, why, where we had to cut elsewhere.
Well, the other thing that I'd like to take the challenge on here, Tim, is the 2609, we just took the 80% straight across.
Correct.
We are now in November. This is a January budget.
Yep.
And the math is all based on the fourth officer. In reality, other than somebody coming in and walking off the street and starting on January 1st,
Tim, you look like you've heard this before.
he's
5 years in a
never...
row, John, but I'm not counting.
Really? Then I won't say a word. You can finish it for me.
Can we put it off and adjust that line? Or
Yeah.
what is the feasible, what is the reality of hiring someone for a January 1 start date? And if that is not possible, what would be the realistic target date, and can we adjust that figure down from there?
And the
That's
answer
somewhat-
is,
Is that somewhat close? Yes.
I led you on.
I knew it was coming. Yes, we can. What's reasonable? I would have thought I would have had this position filled by now.
But even if we said like a March 1st, if we took a,
Honestly, I'm looking at April. Realistically,
that would be a third of the year.
Well,
April 1st.
unless
Yeah,
someone's gonna
that's
work
that's
through
still,
the doors already
we're still
certified.
talking March, a quarter of the year.
Quarter of the year.
Yeah.
Because by the time we got through the whole process,
You know, January is an academy and the next one won't be until June anyway.
So if we left it at 25, that would be a quarter of the year, right?
No, hang
No,
on.
40,
80. No, no.
42,87.
Uh,
So we go, so if you take the 26,191 divided by 4 times 3.
I took the 20,608 that we arrived at, I added back in that 5,000 and change that we were talking about.
Well, that
Oh,
brought up
what,
the
20,000,
26.
yeah, it
That's gonna
basically,
bring you
it's
up to 25
20,000.
and change.
I say 20,000, because it's 19,600. If you take the adjusted number here, plus this number here,
But two things I'm looking at. One is that the new hires are only a week off vacation. It's not 2 weeks, and we've been calculating this all on 2 weeks. So there's 40 hours there, plus the proportionate under the other two. And then,
that could be a bargaining chip though, I won't get rid of that for you, chief.
it's town policy. I mean, he can't. Although if it was to hire somebody, I'd
Right,
say,
that's what
yeah. give them-
That's what I'm saying, I mean, and what if
Yeah.
that's a piece that we can bargain to get somebody in here March 1st?
But, I mean,
I'm good with 20,000.
so you took out this 5,
No, I used the 5, added it to this,
so that's 25.
but then divided it by 4. So I took 75% of that, and it comes out to 19,600. The adjusted number of 20. so
Right, the 20,609 is based on 4 offices, not 5.
Right. And then, so basically when you add this number and the 5581, you come up with 26,190.96.
Yeah?
3/4 of that is $19,600.
How did you come up with 3/4?
Because you said we may not have someone for a quarter of the
First
year.
quarter of the year.
But you're taking 3/4 of everybody's time. I'm only taking it of the new officer. You're taking 3/4 of everybody's time.
Right,
So I'm saying this isn't gonna work. It's gonna be
That's
3/4
why I
of
was
one
at 20
position.
25 and the change.
No, it'll be less than that, wouldn't it?
I'll let you figure the math on that one.
Yeah, I'm just saying if,
So it's 11,449 is the vacation hours.
400 hours.
11, so it's 11,450. So it's 85.87 in vacation. 86.
160, 240. Should be 290 in vacation. 3 offices at 80 and 1 at 40. Right? So if we're at 290
Let them do the
and then,
numbers.
you can help. Go ahead.
I'm good, I got 2 of you guys going at it, and Joanne's doing some
60.
figuring over there, so. What'd you come up with?
Guesstimate at this point. The voice of the people who want to die.
I think that the vacation, personal, and sick hours would go to 19,535.88 if you want to go to pennies. And that's based on 290 hours of vacation, 128 of personnel, 128 of sick. And then if we add to that the 5581. Getting rid of these pennies. 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1. Would be at 25,116.
You said 25, didn't
What were you at?
he? He said to stick with that number and just
And
ignore
get
that.
rid of that one?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean, if you wanna use the number, what'd you come up
Yeah,
with,
that's-
26,116?
25116.
25, 25, yeah, I'm fine.
You can hurt your brain.
Tim, can you work with,
25,000? 25,1? One.
Yes.
25,1?
Let's just leave it at the 116, because I always want to be able to go back and see where it came from.
Alright, 25,116. The increase in equipment, chief, is that with a new hire, we'd have to, there's certain things you have to outfit him with right away?
Yes.
The overtime, I mean, retirement line, I'm sorry, I don't wanna go back yet.
Overtime, did you say?
Oh, please, I'm sorry. The retirement line,
It's adjusted to reflect that figure. Because that retirement figure shows that 2% COLA, so we're gonna have to take that out.
okay.
Yeah.
Which will also affect,
It's also going to affect,
The retirement figure is based on the salary times that 29 point whatever percent.
yes.
Okay.
Did
And
this-
if we obviously adjust the COLA or raises, whatever you choose to call it, we would adjust, still using the same 29 point whatever percent.
That 29% doesn't change, that's set by the New Hampshire.
I know, that's set by the state, so once the salaries are decided, whether it be a 1%, 2%, 50% COLA,
Yep.
I know we're trying to, then that's just a calculation thing.
Correct.
did that number jump again this year?
What's that?
The percentage? How'd we go from
Half
10?
of last year.
Because that's based off of his number right here,
Oh, okay,
and the,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that, yeah, so it'll all adjust once
I'll
we
have to
figure
go
out.
back and adjust all that.
education, 23 versus 5 grand. Would,
I still have training scheduled to
Okay.
do about $2,000 right now.
okay. Police new hire, that's the uniform, I'm assuming it's.
No, new hire, that's psychologicals, polygraph.
Oh, okay,
and,
Back to education, you have nothing listed specifically for cost. It just says level funding,
Correct.
so you have nothing itemized, nothing. If
You wanna know what we spent it on to this?
No, I can
point?
find out what you spent, you know,
Okay, so we-
so you don't have any projections for next year.
No, it's all gonna depend on staffing and
Right.
moving forward from there.
Sorry, Dave.
that's okay. Chief, refresh my memory.
Yes.
What happened with the funding from permits they used to cover the ammunition? Something changed on that, right?
Yeah, it all goes in the general fund.
Okay, and so now we budget for that.
That's in the training line.
Okay, I see it, and that's what prompted the question.
Yeah, there was a bill that was introduced by a former representative from this town that changed it from going to the individual departments for that specific purpose to send it back to the general fund.
Okay,
But quite frankly, with the change in the law to the open carry state, the number of permits that we do now is minimal.
don't they still need to get a permit even to carry it? Even to have a gun?
No.
You mean you just go to Walmart and buy a gun and you're good?
Well, you have to pass their background check, but you don't need a concealed carry
You
permit.
can carry, concealed without a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an open carry state now.
And if you buy private, you don't have to
Constitutional
pass the
carry.
background check.
That one I heard. I don't know.
Yeah. You might know a guy who did that.
Just out of curiosity, what do we, for vehicle maintenance on the new vehicle?
Recalls and then other issues. As a matter of fact, it's downtown and now dealing with the CO.
But isn't that all covered under a warranty?
That is, yeah.
So what do we pay almost $1,000 on, or 900?
Snow tires, for one, which is half of that 9.
Okay,
And then just other maintenance, oil changes, brakes.
computer, what's the server? Tim, I don't know if I'm following along on your police computers. There's the third paragraph on mine is very light, as if though it meant something.
Need a new printer?
No,
Police online telecommunications.
yeah. Is that, it doesn't mean it's not supposed to be there.
No, it's supposed to be there.
Okay, so then what I'm
We
confused.
haven't,
Yep,
they changed the way the system is delivered a year and a half ago. They haven't come up with an actual price to deliver that service yet. It's fluctuated. And this year, as of today, I still have not seen the bill. So I've got no idea where it's gonna come in at.
but is that $4,500 supposed to be part of this budget?
Yes,
Because then something's not adding. If you got 45 there and 19 above it, we're at 64, and then above that, you're saying you are looking to, we will be purchasing 2 new computers.
2 new computers have already been purchased. So we'll be purchasing.
This year.
Yes.
Okay, so for next year then, your 7,000 is strictly incidental maintenance and,
Those are our agreements. and
okay, thank
contractual.
you. Well then,
I have just one question, Chief.
Go ahead, Dan.
You currently are renting that space where you currently are?
Yes,
Where is that on this budget?
that doesn't come out of my budget.
that goes under the GGB, General Government Building.
Okay. And what is that total a month?
1,800 a month?
So,
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Where you didn't get a bill this year for that 4,500, and I'm seeing that that line item now is below. Is there anything in next year's budget that we can get this year and reduce the communications budget?
Rental bill.
Oh, communication.
With that, no. Then reduce the police computer, but that could still be a bill next year.
That is supposed to be a yearly bill for
Yeah.
the spots. That's how we receive motor vehicle records, that's how we receive criminal records.
2,000.
But you haven't received a bill for 2017.
No, I have not.
What I was trying to say is if in December you don't have a bill from them, then is there something in the 2018 budget
We don't know what that's.
that is similarly priced that we
Plus
could
there's the electricity.
buy and reduce next year's budget by using the dollars that are allocated this year? Trying to think of something within here that you may know off the top of your head. Yeah, that we could get this year instead of paying it out of 18.
Well, I'm also due for a new server this year. Outside of my standalones, my CPU.
But you don't have it budgeted in 18. So that would be something that you're getting, yeah. Okay.
Didn't we have a discussion on the fuel line when we bought heating oil? The projected gallon cost.
235,
Yeah.
239.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, I see that, 235, I don't know if that, is that the number that we would?
That rings a bell.
It is the
Yeah,
number? Okay.
yeah. Because at the time, I think the fuel here was 250 something. I said, well, I'm hoping it's gonna go.
Right, yeah, I can, I don't remember where we got the number from. But,
It's from the Department of Energy, Office of Energy and OEP, Office of Energy and Planning. Yeah.
Just got one quick question, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Does the town of New Ipswich purchase block pistols for each police officer?
Yes, department issue.
Okay, so those pistols basically stay with the department and go on to a Another police officer if you get a new hire?
Yes.
What was with Comcast? You say that our contract expired.
We received notice that the contract had expired, and we ended up with an increase, and I don't know why the contract expired.
Did you get something like that, Joanne, for the town office?
For your internet,
Just lately? Just,
a month ago?
I don't remember that.
So it's an increase of $50 a month?
But I was under the impression that the whole town was on the same contract. So I don't understand
That's what I would have thought,
why that happened.
yeah. The benefit. Gotta remember next time we negotiate that Comcast.
Comcast, yeah.
It wasn't a generic letter?
Specific. I would have thought everyone else would have got the same thing. And all I have is internet and phone. I don't even have the TV.
That's free.
Yeah, well,
That's what it was. We get, the TV is free, it's the internet and the phone that we pay for. But we have the Comcast here.
and I believe we're both set up the same way as far as speed, you know, and the volume.
Could you check on that, Joanne? Can you give her a copy of that letter?
Absolutely.
Done? All set?
What's that?
I will,
What's the value?
I was waiting till you were finished. I know not to jump ahead.
I'd like to
Well,
not come up until everything gets capped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the two numbers I'm showing that we've definitely changed the number, it's the salary line item and the overtime.
Yeah.
Tim, you're gonna go back and check
692.
the rates that you used on all of these, because I'm assuming the rates included the 2%.
yes, so I'm going to adjust the full-time salary line, the Medicare line, and the retirement line. Those three lines are gonna have to be adjusted to reflect, because that's all based off the salary line.
Yeah. What about the court labor and all of those?
Yep, I'll have to adjust that too.
What
So I have a
salaries?
rough number. Yeah, Jay and I have a rough number.
Yeah, we all have rough numbers.
Not everybody.
Let's see.
$693.
What's below that?
No.
That, yeah.
Well, it'll be below that once everything else is adjusted.
After what we did tonight.
But from what we did
Yeah.
tonight,
Chief, line 18
$693.
at $7,000, is that the server where it says computers?
693.
Somewhere.
That's the spot stand, as well as CAD,
Yeah, down below 6.
and hop sync,
Yeah.
and the service, any other incidentals I would buy, so yes, the server.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I
That's it.
appreciate it. Thank you for your community service.
We'll be talking.
Oh, yeah, this is it for tonight, but it's not over.
Oh, no doubt.
Good choice of words, Chief.
That was your answer.
It almost went out, so.
Keep telling you, Chief, come by in the morning for a cup of coffee.
Don't put that back. Okay, we'll put it down.
I'm not shaking. I'm get sick.
I'll let you go.
Okay. Thank you. Jay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Tim.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good
You
luck.
too, sir.
Good luck. What-
Who's next in the I mean, come on up, Chief.
I got highlights. No, just.
You coming up?
No, sitting right back here.
Oh, thanks.
I am the support staff.
Support staff.
Let Meredith deflect it, huh?
That's
You're
right.
administrative.
That's why she gets the big stick.
Support staff, moral support.
I won't go back on that. I'm here to write all the numbers she's not gonna remember.
She brought that up.
Yeah, I noticed.
I'd like to make a motion for a
Fire
5-minute
department.
recess.
Okay.
Second.
Recess?
5 minutes. Look, the last guy was carrying a gun, Alan, so.
Yeah.
Last guy was carrying a gun, he
Yeah,
had all
so
the backup.
it's
Yeah.
My baby's arrested.
This right here.
I don't know, I'm not, that's, in years past, he's done that many times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets, maybe gets tired of the discussion, he gets up to this. Mm-hmm. But there's been other years when he was.
Oh, I'm glad it's not just me.
No, when I was on the committee with
Just saying.
he showed up late, leave early, and then we'll go to have discussion, ask questions, but you never asked a second question when we sat at the meeting. And he got mad at me, and he got the left. I take it personal, but I don't mind. I said, I'll take it personal, but I don't mind. That's just, no, it's just his. Yeah, that's. How did Mountain View survive the rains, Alan?
Fine.
Yeah?
Actually, no problems at all. We had that one year.
Yeah.
That the
Yeah, it was right after we
road washed
moved,
out.
yeah, it was everything
We
washed
had the
out.
big party up there for, everybody parked half their cars below the thing and half above, and then we had a big party and everybody got drunk and they couldn't go to work.
Yeah, hey, no better.
It works. We had everybody up there for Halloween. Who was in the police car for Halloween driving around?
We used to be 6.
I don't know, but I heard good reports that he was handing out candy.
They were handing out candy to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I assume the passenger was one of the selectmen, that's the reason I asked.
Wasn't myself. What were they dressed as?
Well, actually, he was wearing a light colored
Kinda look
sweatshirt.
like you.
Yeah, dressed as an old man.
Well, the fact that he was wearing like an orange sweatshirt, I just assumed that one of you guys not. You were going up and down, stopping kids and asking stuff.
That's awesome.
Meredith, before we get started, does the fire department still arrange fire extinguisher refills, or do I just need to go out and buy a couple?
It'll cost you more to refill them than it would to buy new ones.
Okay.
And then I did put out a couple, little bit of information on Kid had a massive recall on some of the.
Yes, I saw that, so,
Yeah, we get our industrial ones refilled because it's worth it for us, but the little home ones, it's
No.
just, yeah.
Okay.
It would cost you more than it's worth to do it.
so how do I find out if I'm buying a good one? Do they have a recall lot numbers that are bad, or did they?
It's on their website is all the lot numbers and the years, and it's a simple form. You just fill out, and apparently they just send you new ones.
Yeah, I haven't bought any, I'm just asking, so I'm guessing they pulled all the
I would
bad ones off.
hope that they would have pulled all the bad ones off, and I think the dates
It might be on
were
the counter by their map.
I can't remember, my.
That's okay.
2016, so anything with a 2018 date on it should be.
Should be good. Thank you.
I just bought one.
Check on the kid website to make sure it wasn't part of the recall. It was a pretty hefty recall. And it has, if it has a plastic top on it, that's one of the issues, because the plastic was clogged. It was
And it
causing
does.
some kind of clog with the
And it
chemicals.
does.
Yeah, I would check the kid.
Thanks.
I'll bring it by your house.
There you go.
Check it for you.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Just leave it on the end of it.
You do need a refill.
You do need a refill.
That'll be
But
$20.
unfortunately, I used it, so now you have to buy another one.
You ready?
Yep. So we're basically facing the same thing on that first line item. Currently.
You wanna go through your budget? Starting with the top.
Yeah. You want me to just go through it? Starting with salaries and stipends.
Yeah.
So account 111, we're asking for just a 3%, for lack of a better word, cost of living raise. In talking with the previous chief, it's been, he was saying 8 years, but it's been at least 6 years since we've had any increase to any of the stipends for the guys on the department. So with the exception of last year, we did incorporate a step for EMTs, things like that, because they were doing that additional. But as far as a percentage increase, we haven't had one in 8 years. So we didn't want to ask for a lot, but just 3%, just kind of an inflation kind of coverage.
Just to same spiel we've given to anybody that's added that in there, is we're leaving it at what they are now, and the board's going to look at where increases may go or may or may not go.
Okay, so that's a decision you'll be making on.
Later, yeah.
Yep. 130 account, which is the chief stipend, we didn't ask for an increase on that. Under education and training, which is the 240 account, we decreased that, partly because we have very few people that need the Fire 1 and Fire 2 training. We have potentially one coming up this year, in the incoming year, and then we have 2 that still need Fire 2. There were no Fire 2 classes this year, so we were unable to put them through this year, but hopefully the coming year there'll be something put out by the state that we can run those through.
Just to throw out your,
Yep.
on this sheet,
Yeah.
doesn't match this sheet.
For what?
It says 3348.
That's your FICA.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
See, that's why she's here.
We do a FICA training now?
Sure. And then we've reduced that, we cut that budget in half because we're trying to do more in-house training. We've got 2 we've got 3 potentially state instructors that can put on some training in-house, and we feel that the benefit for the department would be better because we can train more people with less resources. So we're trying to get more bang for our buck as far as training. We've been designing some props out backs to do some roof ventilation, things like that. So we actually decreased that budget by $1,700.
Meredith, just a curiosity question.
Yep.
When I look at, for the training, you got 1 potential firefighter, 1 training, and 2 firefighter 2. Does that mean that the rest of the department is above a firefighter 2 or at a firefighter 2?
With the exception of, we have 7 that are, we have 3 right now that are not certified at all. One of those we're looking at into his licensing from another state. And so yes, everybody else is at least Fire 1.
Okay, thank
And that's
you.
one of the requirements of the department. Is within a year they have to become Fire 1. And then Fire 2 is that next advance, it's more rescue skills, more requirements for officers, being able to lead a crew in advanced fire training, advanced hose advancement, things like that. So
So
we're trying to get everybody up to that level.
how many currently approximately?
Right now, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now, we have 10. We have 10 at Fire 2. We have 1, 2, 9 at Fire 1, the 3 non-certified. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, and myself and Gary. So whatever I told you on the first one for Fire 2, add 2 more to that.
So 12 at fire 2.
Yep. And then 9 at Fire 1. We currently have 2 of our Explorers that are also Fire 1. They can't function as Fire 1 until they turn 18, but next year they both turn 18, so they will both then become certified firefighters. And we have another Explorer that's in the Fire 1 program right now that will finish in January.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just got one question. Advanced specialty training, what would that consist of?
It could be anything from some new hose techniques for advancement of hose. We've got a specialty instructor coming in December under a grant that's doing something called Surviving the Inside, which kind of teaches you like how far you can get in before you're in danger, monitor your air. The IAFF, the International Association of Firefighters, puts on a class called Fireground Survival, which teaches them how to do window bailouts, any kind of RIT training, anything like that would be their specialties. Advanced rope training, they get a little bit of ropes, confined space, they get a little bit of ropes, lifting and jacking, air monitoring, things in the Fire 2, but it gives you just enough skills to be able to help somebody who is advanced, so we're looking at maybe advanced some rope technicians, things like that.
Okay.
As we get more into less fighting of fire and more calling the fire department whenever anybody needs something, we're trying to increase those specialties so that we can assist in those as well.
Thank you.
Anything else for training?
No.
So we're looking just to bring more in-house and do more on our own, so that's why the reduction there. The account, the 350 account, which has always been firefighter physicals, it's really, well, it actually started out as inoculations and TB testing. TB testing is no longer required by Monadnock Hospital, so last year we got permission from you guys to change that to firefighter physicals. We're also taking our fit testing for our masks out of that account. Every year, under the NFPA standards, firefighters have to be fit tested with their masks to make sure that they fit correctly so there's no leakage around anywhere. So we have incorporated that into there as well. I made a mistake on that, and it actually should be $300 instead of $200. So I need to change that by $100, I apologize. But the fit testing for all of the people on our department was $250 last year. And then we're due again in December, so we're trying to do it every December. We incorporate that with our SCBA recertifications. And then the additional money goes to, right now, the state has a requirement that anybody that's taking a physically challenging class has to have a physical. It's not an FPA standard physical, but it's not a 1582 physical, it's just like a sports physical, for lack of a better thing. So right now, if people are covered under their health insurance, we are not paying for those, but we do pick up the copay for them if they have to get them based on these classes in order to be able to take the classes, because they can't take the classes without a physical. And then anybody that doesn't have health insurance, we would cover that basic physical for them to get that sign off.
Are these new standards?
These are new from the Fire Academy as of last year.
I see you have $500 in 2013, spent nothing. $500 in 14, spent nothing.
Yeah, that was
450
before
and
me.
15, spent 200.
That was back when it was inoculations.
It's just, we're budgeting, you budgeted 1325 in 2016 and spent nothing. So I'm just curious,
2016, we spent at least $250 because we did fit
not
testing.
according to the numbers that I have from the
Oh,
accounting
yes.
report.
Yeah.
That's weird because we have a bill for it because we looked it up tonight. That's how I knew
That's
what
what
the
came
cost
out of the
was.
general budget that year.
Okay.
And this year though, 2017, it shows only $20 spent.
Because we haven't spent it yet because fit testing's
You
due
said
in
it was due in
December.
December.
Yeah. That's why we reduced it to 300 because we don't need, the amount of money that was in there in the past, we don't need. We reduced it to 300, so we have the $250 for the fit testing, which comes in every December. And then that extra $50 or so to cover anybody's co-pays that goes for a physical in order to take the class.
So your hepatitis B shots is under your inoculations, right?
It was, yes, and
Okay.
that's not required anymore, so we took
Okay.
that out of here.
So if you go to a known medical call and the patient is screaming, I have tuberculosis, where is that money coming out for follow-up screening on that individual?
That money would come out of work comp at that
Okay.
point. The testing wouldn't, the testing would probably be on them. Well, if it's a known TB, then it should come out of work comp.
Okay,
It's weird, I
it's
don't,
something to look at because, just to throw it away because it,
well, we were only paying, and a TB is an inoculation, a
no,
TB
it's
is
a test, correct.
So all it's saying is, at the time of the test, you do or do not have it.
Hmm.
So,
Then you got
We
chest
have-
x-rays if it comes back to a positive.
yep, and all that, if there's an exposure on a call, that would be covered by work comp.
Okay.
And I just went to a work comp training last week, so that's the only reason I know the answer to that question. Anything else under that 350 account? Under the 430 account, equipment repair and maintenance, we've got our usual annual ones, ladder testing, the extinguisher testing, and if they need to be filled. Like I said, those are the commercial ones that it does make sense for us to refill them. SCBA maintenance and repair, and then compressor maintenance and testing, which tested the clean air that's coming out of our compressor. We kept the SCBA maintenance and repair lower this year because we have just done all of our hybrid, no, they weren't hybrid testing, yeah. So those are all good to go, so we just kept that in there for pieces and parts that might break as far as pieces of regulators or new seals on masks or new straps, new head pieces or anything like that. So that's why that's just at $300. Small engine repair maintenance we've added this year. We're trying to start a program for all of our small engines to make sure that they're repaired and running correctly, get the oils changed. We've got 10 of them. We figure with our fans, our generators, everything that's on the trucks, saws, everything like that. We're trying to keep them so that we can keep them in good shape. So this first year, we're going to do all 10, and then we'll look at the amount of use that each piece of equipment gets, and we may go to an alternate year after that. But we're worried about, with all of the new additives that they keep putting into the fuels, we want to make sure that air filters are changed and spark plugs and everything are changed on a regular basis so that we get more use out of those pieces.
Just
of
curious,
equipment.
who we're using for that?
We haven't found anybody. We're talking about to the guy on Bowen Road, to see if he will take that on. At one point, when I went to a call over there, I talked to him and he had expressed some interest in being willing to do that. We would shop around, obviously, and get the best price.
Yeah, I was just curious, I was just curious, I mean, not that 150 is outrageous, just curious where we came up with the price of 150.
I have a question on that.
Go ahead.
Small engine maintenance repair, we just had the emergency management gentleman, Jim Hickson,
Yep.
and in that trailer, he stated that he has 2 generators in that emergency management trailer. Is any part of those small engines part of the trailer?
No, these are all ours. The two that are there, our emergency management, belong to him. We do use one of those down at the station, but it came back up here. I don't think it belongs to us. I think they're both his.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
But,
Personally, or?
No,
No.
emergency management.
right,
And they're up here and they're being run and maintained by Peter's guys, from what I understand.
no,
Okay, they're not.
Jim is, he's saying that he checks those.
Okay.
But that's something on the side note where he's reminding me that last year I told him somebody's gotta take responsibility for that trail and it should be emergency management. But, you know, as he explained today, that trailer is for fire, police, and emergency management.
That's the way the grant was written, correct?
So somehow it should be a combined, if there's a way that the group can work together and,
Oh, we are.
okay,
Oh, yeah, Jim and Tim and I meet regularly. We meet once a month and we go over things like that. So we're talking about the radios that are going in there and the maintenance that's gonna be done on that. We're trying to
Okay,
get
good,
that back up to
good,
speed again.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So that does not include the 2 generators.
Besides the gentleman on Gone Road, someone told me that there's a gentleman just down from Messinic that also does small engine repair.
So we
Yeah.
plan to get,
A couple.
to get a couple different and go with the cheapest one.
Awesome.
That will do a good job. And we're looking again, long range at, depending on usage. We obviously don't have to do them every single year, depending on how much use they get. So different ones might go out every year, some might only go out every other year. But we had to start somewhere, so we wanted to kind of get a baseline on getting them maintained this year, and then we'll come up with a long-term plan from there. 432 vehicle maintenance. You can see the things that need to be done.
There's a typo on that.
I don't know, but, yeah,
At the very top, it says increased budget from 5,000 to 20,000.
yeah,
Your budget was
15.
15,000.
yeah.
Increase it, the budget, by
Increase
5,000.
budget 5,000 to
20,000.
20,000.
Okay, so it's,
Increased budget 5,000 to 20,000. So
Right.
it's at 15 now, correct?
But I mean, and please don't take this the wrong way, but I could keep coming up with things to add to this.
Oh, I'm
You can
sure
always could, okay,
Oh, I'm
but,
sure you could, but these are the ones that have to be done.
well,
Oh, yeah, they do.
they really don't. And I'm challenging you to it.
All right.
I'm not,
Which ones
Well,
don't need to be done?
well, let's look at this year's budget,
Okay,
which we know
we're
was the
over that.
I know we're over, but why are we over?
we
Because of the
didn't do-
pumper
Yeah.
and that issue, whatever you wanna call it. But that was a large value repair maintenance.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm saying if you took that value out of the equation, wouldn't we be back down to where, or below last year's budget?
No, we're 7,000 over the 15,000 this year.
No, you're,
Oh, yeah,
well,
we're-
as of
No,
As of,
As of now,
As of today, we're $7,620.09 over that line item.
and we still have another outstanding for the tanker, which is at almost $1,000.
So do you have bills that you haven't turned in?
We have bills that I
Big
watched
maintenance?
last week that maybe haven't.
And
Maybe
the
yours.
maintenance
Right.
They want. This is what they average for the last 5 years.
So what is your figure showing for
They
your,
spent
$7,620.
No, no, total, total.
Total?
yeah,
22,620.09 is what we're at right now.
22609?
22,620.09.
Now, in fairness, if we, because we're gonna put in, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And what was the overall value of just that one upgrade, repair, change on that pumper?
It was 14,000 maybe?
Right. So overall then on maintenance, you would have been roughly 8 or 9?
Only because you told me I had to be careful and try not to, or bring this down you told me to bring this, when I came with the $14,000 bill, you told me to cut back as much as I possibly could. So now, the stuff that didn't get done this year, like that one set of tires, needs to be done next year.
All right, help me out on your laundry list here. Strobes, tripod lights, spotlights, charging system, and shoreline. I'm assuming that the letters in front of that represent some type of vehicle.
Yes. So in fairness, which is where I was going when you said something, if we are putting in a warrant article again this year for a new engine. There's an engine committee going on. They've met, I don't know if they've met with you yet, but they've met and they're getting.
They came and spoke with me and
They're getting quotes right now, is what they're doing in the process. So if that engine passes a warrant article, and we're trying to keep it under what's in the capital reserve this year, if then that $1,200 for E3 would go away. Because we wouldn't have to replace that charging system. But if we don't get that grant, right now, we just spent money to get that engine. It was not holding a charge, so we tried plugging it in, the electric bill went up, we unplugged it. We sent it up to Wayland's in Temple, they supposedly fixed it all, there's something still not right with it, and so I took it to do pump testing last week, it wouldn't start. So the guys had to jump it again tonight, so if we have to live with engine 3 again next year because we don't get the capital reserve and the new engine, we've got to do something with that engine.
Is this the 14,000 we talked about last year of refurbishing the pump because it wasn't up to NFPA standards on holding
We
the
didn't
peak
do
pressure?
that, we didn't do the, we didn't put the 14,000 into the pump because there's so many other things. First of all, the truck is 30 years old, and there's so many other things that need to be done in order to bring it up to the NFPA standards for safety, that it wasn't worth throwing the $14,000 at the vehicle.
I think, Dan, the 14,000 that you referenced that we spent, that was for the other apparatus.
That was for engine,
Engine 4, the
Four.
impeller, and some other parts of the pump were damaged.
yeah, so that was the other engine,
Okay.
and that was partly due to, well,
Did you pay for this repair that didn't work?
they fixed everything that they could find so far, and and everything is working there, but there's still something that's not right. That's
Okay, 'cause
making
I heard
that
you say
either
you
not
paid-
hold a charge.
I heard you say you paid them to fix it, and it's still not.
Well, we
right.
sent it up there to have the work all done on it, and I've got to follow up. It just came back. So I have to follow up on why it's still not working. Either it's drawing, or it needs something's wrong with the charging system. So whether it's a massive replacement, and I don't know where Pete got that $1,200, but if it's $1,200 to replace that whole charging system, I don't know. I can find out for you though.
Going back to your previous comment on what we paid on that engine for, why was I thinking that had something to do with the generator?
That was for the, we did the generator on the rescue this year.
The generator on the rescue this year is the one that went out. And that was, do you have what the total bill was on that, Wendy?
I have 3 different bills, one was with.
And that was the whole thing with the, where they had to offset to the PTO and everything. That was this year. Engine 4, the 14,000 was the year before.
No, it's about the same too. The initial.
Engine
bill for
4
that-
was in 2016.
Yes. That was where we had the whole pump issue and had to replace the whole pump.
Yeah.
Then this year, we had to replace the whole generator system. And what happened was that the truck came, when the truck was built, it was built with the wrong generator setup. And the company is now out of business.
But which vehicle was that?
That was the rescue.
R1.
R1. So tanker 2's fuel tank has got a leak in it, that's what we want to fix with that. Engine 4 is just regular maintenance, flushing and filling and the oil in the generator, because that needs to be done this year. Rescue 1, the strobes, the housings on them are leaking water, and it's just the design, so we're gonna replace the whole thing, and in the process, put in LED strobes as well, to make them more efficient.
But these are things that we could, well, I guess the big one is the tires.
The tires on tanker 1 and brush 1.
And
Brush
then-
1, the brush truck tires have not been done as long as we've owned the truck.
And, and just to look at that, so that's off of a couple years ago, we asked you to start budgeting like 1 set a year, which and then this year we didn't get to 1 because we went over budget on things, so now we've got 2 that we've got to do next year
Correct.
to stay in that
Correct,
rotation, okay?
yeah. And you guys, you had asked, or the board at that point had asked us to start
Yeah,
marching those out, so we had a plan so that we weren't coming up and saying, okay, this year we need to raise this budget by $20,000 because we've got to put tires on 5 trucks, so.
I just want to make sure, because I was one of those people that asked that, so.
And then the shoreline for the rescue is something that was supposed to be done this year, and again, we pushed that off a year, but when it's not plugged into that air system, it loses air slowly.
So we
So we want
actually,
to put the shoreline in.
you know, like, we don't actually have an air connection on the rescue now. And I'd say the tanker, the 2 engines and the tanker have it, but the rescue does not. And with the air brake system, what's been happening a lot recently is we're going to start the truck and we have to sit and wait a minute for the air pressure to build up before we can actually pull out of the station.
And that's on which vehicle?
The rescue.
So we want to plumb a shoreline into it so that we can keep it pressurized at all times.
So is there something that's faulty by design, or is this,
It's just the way the truck is.
Just
So
the
it's
way
the-
all trucks are, all the fire apparatus
Where?
are like that. You just keep the shoreline plugged in because of your braking system and everything.
Keeps
Where the
us
truck-
in there.
Go ahead.
Where the trucks aren't running on a daily basis, or
That's what I was gonna
sometimes
say.
not even a weekly basis, it doesn't give it that opportunity to build up pressure back in its tanks. So as it sits, it'll slowly leak periodically. I mean, I don't know the exact where it's leaking from or if it's by design, but I know it's always kind of happened. If you look at 90% of fire trucks out there, they typically have a shoreline.
And why this one came without one, I don't know.
and that shoreline is a connection?
A connection,
It's a-
so it would be like an air that drops from the ceiling and plugs into the side of the truck.
Okay, I'm
And
looking
we
at
have
those,
the
and those are
drops.
really short dollar items, you know, when you're talking $300
Yep.
for, no. When I'm looking at the overall of going up to 20,000, and I say, okay, what's the big ticket items here? And we know the tire issue. Then there's a lot of these that are 2,000 for lights. That's something we do, one this year, one next year,
Except that it's a safety issue.
so they don't work now.
They,
'Cause whenever I see them go by my house, those lights are going in the
no, these are scene lights.
scene lights.
Yeah, these are, so at a car accident, The tripod lights we pull out and set up so that we can light up the scene.
Okay.
Same with the spotlights, they're the lights on the sides of the truck that light up the whole scene.
Back to David's question though, do you have them now and do they work?
I wish
I don't
Pete was
have the
here
answer.
because,
Thinking spotlights, $2,000. Is it like replacing lamps on the ones on
you
the
know what,
truck? or-
I honestly have to tell you that I don't know. Pete
Okay.
was supposed to
Thank
be
you, we,
here.
that's what we like, honest answers.
Pete
Thanks.
was supposed to be here, there's a water main break in Peter. But I can find that out, and if we can push them off, at least one set of them, we can do that.
In reference to the line where it says R1 strobes, just an explanation on that one is the current housing is on the back of the rescue. We placed some of them so far, but what's happening is the backs of the light housing itself are made of metal and they're corroding to the point where they're just disintegrating. So I know we've had to replace a couple of them on some of the trucks, but for whatever reason, it's poor design. So when we would convert them over to the LED, it would come with a different style housing, and it's not going to corrode.
And some
So
of that,
you're in essence just buying a new fixture and,
Yes,
Yeah, and
that's what the strobe line is.
and it's road salt that gets up in there and it's corroding away that metal. But I will,
command car installed command center.
we,
I have this nice trailer
which, how am I?
that
gonna
I've been
get
told
in
is
every
called the
scene?
command center.
Yeah, but it's no good right now, David.
We took over, it was donated to us to get a command center donated from Peterborough Fire. What it is it's a box that fits into the back of the command center where you attach radios, you put lights, so that you can see, so that whoever's the incident commander has a place to work. That's where accountability is, so if there's a fire, everybody turns in their tags, there's a board there that hangs. We don't have one of those. Currently, right now, we work out of the back of whoever's vehicle is there, or we work out of the driver's seat with one radio. So what we're trying to do is we've got the guts of this command center given to us, and what we want to do is now take that, put the boards in, put the lighting in, make sure that the accountability tags are there, run the wiring for the radios, all that kind of stuff. We put radios in the budget in order to be able to do that as well. So it's just causing us to be able to function better on a scene. Right now, what happens if we have a scene and we dealt with it, I was trying to think just recently on something where it wasn't that big a deal, but if it was a building fire, right now we have all of our vehicles that we have, my command vehicle, Gary's vehicle, anything that we might use on the scene has one radio. So what happens on a big scene is that one radio has to be dedicated somewhere, and it's usually dedicated to talk to dispatch. So if that radio is talking to dispatch, we can't keep all of our scene on that dispatch frequency too. We have to go to a tactical frequency. So in order to be able to do that, you either have to switch those radios back and forth, which causes a little bit of lag. So if you have somebody in a burning building and you're working on a TAC frequency and you have to go to dispatch because they're looking for what they call a PAR check, which is accountability check, you have to switch that radio. In that time, you've got no connection with the people in the building. So what we're trying to do is what departments around us in the area are doing is having two radios back there so that we can actually be scanning both frequencies so that we can talk to dispatch. I need to upgrade to get another alarm. I need more tankers. Here's my PAR checks, whatever, without losing the communications with the people inside the building. So this command post will enable us to do that. The command post that Jim has is a long-range command post. It would have been perfect on the floods that we had last week if they were longer. They were fairly short duration, so maybe not. We used that command center of Jim's during the ice storm. We actually lived in it for, well, I can't even remember how many days, 8 days or whatever it was. We brought a dispatcher in, they sat there and dispatched. There were several different radios. You can have your command post in there, you can have meetings in there, things like that. So it's kind of apples and oranges, is what it
Okay.
is.
That's fine.
So that's what. And that would have to be hauled, and you wouldn't haul that to,
Who would install this in your command vehicle?
um,
Because you already own everything, right? I don't.
yeah, we're doing, this is just for the supply stuff, we're doing all the work ourselves. Hazen's already got it, Hazen's already got the guts of it in.
Yeah,
So the box itself is in the back of the command station center right now. So getting the boards and all that kind of stuff, this is buying the supplies and we'll do the work ourselves.
thank you.
Can,
All right,
with
so-
that being said, can I ask a question?
Yep,
Is there anything that in this year's budget that you could take some money, $1,000 from this year and spend that money now before the end of this year, and then it doesn't have to be in next year's budget?
yep.
Can I make that recommendation?
I don't know that they're gonna,
We're already over
Yeah.
by the cost of the,
yeah, like on
Well,
this,
I'm looking at the total budget.
right, so
So I'm
they,
looking at fire equipment, new replace. Do we see, on this, you're at 6,500, and you're at, with a budget of 11,000, you're at 74, I mean, add a little bit for what we don't, so another 3,000, you're at 77,000
where are you?
on your total budget sheet. You're at 74, say 77,000 of a possible $120,000 budget.
no, but if you take that 74,3,
Yeah, but we
okay, they
have,
still have to add to that the balance of the
I-
stipends, the
Yeah.
balance of
And I've got-
salaries.
I've got $3,000 right now of outstanding equipment that was on last year's budget that it hasn't gone against that bill yet.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if there's $1,000,
If there is $1,000, we certainly will do that.
yeah.
And then remove it from next year's budget. And then I will look at, you want me to look at the two sets of lights and see if that's something that we need to do or look at putting off, correct?
To John's question, and I had in my mind the overage on the, it's listed under fire vehicle, but I think it's supposed to be the equipment and repair. Where we went, you've got, 22.6, and ours is showing 19. So somewhere we've got to come up within that budget right now of roughly $7,600 in your current budget.
We're over in the vehicle maintenance, correct?
Right, so when you're over in one, we gotta look at the others and say, how do we cover this? So,
And when I came with the original bill for that, I had asked for money from the general fund, and you said, do the best you can out of your budget, and then, so that's what we're doing.
I understand that.
But we can't cover all 76, or all,
Show you, right now, if you take your actual cost to date, I'm gonna use round numbers, 74,3, plus there's another 3,000, which we haven't accounted for, but she's confirmed was part of that repair. So you're gonna be at 77,3. You've got roughly another 26,000 in salaries that are gonna get
Yeah.
paid out this year. So, 77, 97, we're roughly 103,000 on a 120,000
how much did you
budget.
say?
103 on a 120,000 budget. So do you know between now and the end of the year where you'll be expending 17,000?
I know what I've got between most everything between now and the end of the year. I haven't added it all up because it's in every separate line item.
It's November, and that's where.
Now, we've got extra
Yeah.
money
It's
in training, which is part of the
November.
reason
And
we
if you look
reduced
at a
the
lot of
training
these,
for
you
this
know,
year.
it's 25.
Right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, I don't know how much extra we have. We have extra in
That's what
training.
I was saying before, but.
I can look down your line here where,
Well, I know, but you don't have all the bills and all the things that, I mean, we're talking
You want a
November,
copy of the one I did you today?
we still have 2
You want
months
Sure.
left.
up-to-date numbers?
yeah.
I mean, I've got,
What, the easier thing is, what do you show for a bottom line cost
Actual.
to date actual?
2017 current?
Yes,
Out,
yes.
$81,086.41.
81,086, okay.
The balance of 39,184.59.
So, the balance on,
No, it should be higher than that.
20.
Yeah, 81 versus 120 budget, right?
Roughly, just in salaries and stipends and FICA and that stuff, we're gonna be roughly $30,000. Agreed?
for salaries,
Mm-hmm.
yeah?
So that's gonna get us up to about the 120 that we have in the 2017 budget. I'm asked,
For November, December, you're looking at probably about $2,000 in heat. $800 for electricity for the next 2 months, $800 in fuel for the next 2 months. For
And
the
then
trucks,
$3,000 in some new equipment that hasn't come in yet, it's been purchased.
what is that?
That is nozzles, which we desperately need, a floating strainer.
We need nozzles between now and the end of the
We need
year?
nozzles 2 years ago. I'm not kidding you. I mean, our nozzles are,
What?
our nozzles are kind of the same way where our hose was, that they're so far out of compliance. And
But
they
we're
don't
talking
work
another-
right.
2 months. We've used it for how many years? I would have hoped, knowing how tight this budget was, we would have put that into the,
No, that's this year's budget.
that's what I'm talking, 17.
But now you're
2007.
telling me to wait until next year, which means that's gonna up my next year's budget.
Correct.
You're taking it from this year and reducing next year, but then we're adding back to next year.
No, we're not, we're just trying to meet this year's budget.
But that was that repair to the rescue was
Mhm.
was the catastrophic thing. I thought we could take it
I wouldn't
out of
call it
capital.
catastrophic, but it was a
Well,
repair.
catastrophic in that we had no lights on the scene. It was kind of catastrophic.
No lights on the scene.
We had no scene lighting during that whole generator thing. We had no generator.
Right.
That's pretty catastrophic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And then where you're sitting.
Yeah.
depends on if you're driving by or at the scene. So that, my understanding was when I came to you back when that happened, my understanding was that we were going to pull as much of that as we possibly could out of our budget without
Mhm.
sacrificing the things we truly needed. And then the rest would be covered from the capital reserve account.
No, it would come out of the general fund.
Well, I'm sorry, out of the general fund, I
Right.
mean capital reserve. So that's what we're doing. We've reduced some of the training things to make up some of that, but there's still some things that we can't. I mean, we can wait 2 months to buy a set of nozzles, except they've already been ordered. But we can't do without them. We should have had them.
I'm not saying that you can do
Years ago.
without them, but what I was asking is if that could not have been in the 18 budget so that your 2017 budget doesn't go over. Because we're not sure yet where the general fund budget's gonna come out, when everything gets washed out this year.
I guess I don't understand the concept of pushing it off to increase next year's budget when we're already over for next year. We're already higher than I want to be.
But that's something the voters have to vote on, okay? If they say no, then we have to pass something back. You may not get your nozzles. Then again, you didn't have the nozzles in this year's budget.
Yes, we
Right.
did.
Where would that have been? Yep. General supplies or something?
Fire equipment new
No,
and
fire
replaced.
equipment new and replaced. Not in the
You only had a
2018
budget of $2,449. You said they were $3,000.
No, fire equipment new and replaced is $11,000 budget.
We have $11,000 in there.
Yeah, fire equipment new and replaced. $11,000.
Okay.
I guess this brings up a question that I don't know the answer to, because I've asked this question before. Because this is 2 years in a row that something catastrophic, or kind of catastrophic, has happened, that it's really taken a huge chunk out of our budget. And I don't know what happens to the road agent when it happens in his department either, but at one point, there was a fund that was, or a line item that was set up where you could take these events from. Why can't we set up an account like that? And you'll say that the state made us dissolve it or something, but other departments that I've talked to have that. So it,
Ask them can you tell it, then if you've asked the departments that they have it, what do they have that under?
what did we have it
It
under
used to be a
before?
contingency
It's
fund.
a-
Right, we used to, and then now you can't have a
Right, you
contingency
can't use it
anymore.
anymore.
But
So,
but every department that I've talked to has that, so that if this happens, that money, we put money into that reserve account every year, and it builds up so that when you have a $14,000 bill, the money is there and it doesn't affect your budget.
That's not the same thing as a contingency fund. You're talking about two different.
I'm
things.
talking about a capital account where
There's
we
some
can,
sort of revolving account or.
like a.
not a revolving account,
Whatever,
that'd have to
some
be
sort of
a,
Like a capital reserve account that builds up for dump trucks and fire trucks and anything like that when we have a big event like this.
Actually, you
Because
can use the revolving fund for that.
$14,000 is a big hit to
Revolving
my budget.
accounts are
and I
only good
can't
for
keep
money
pushing
in,
it
money
every
out.
year.
Read the RSA.
I have.
So,
So I'm just asking, because this is 2 years in a row that I've had to push things off because we've had a big event that we've had to cover. And I can't keep pushing, I mean, nozzles is a safety issue.
No matter what, everything is a safety issue, so let's,
Well,
Come
I'd
on my
like,
side.
I personally like the fire department to have a nozzle if my house was on fire so they could put it out. So I think nozzles is pretty critical when it comes to firefighting.
I'm not saying it's not critical.
But I got a question.
Yep.
Back in the years, I was a firefighter back in 1990 to 19...
The horse drawn?
A long time. Rick Hewitt came up with a fund that he actually turned around and put so much money away, $5,000 every year to be a warrant article, $5,000 for outfitting firefighters with new bunker gear.
We still have that.
Okay. So if that worked, why can't a fund be created similar to that to say, okay, miscellaneous repairs or unforeseen situations?
It can, it's gotta be a warrant article.
Right.
It's gotta be a warrant
Okay.
article to create it and a warrant article. The school has one of those
That's
that
what
they,
I'm asking.
that they put together. It's gotta be a warrant
So
article.
it's doable.
Yes, it is doable, but it's a separate warrant article to create it, and then every year you have to put a warrant article in to add money
Add
to it.
Just like we do our capital
Yes.
reserve.
But it is, I forgot, I don't know how they title it, but the school has one similar, so that all of a sudden if a tree comes down and crashes through the roof, even though you may have insurance money, you have money there that the insurance money can then go back into and whatever. It's a fund to start out so that you're not waiting for money to come in.
And I'm hoping eventually
Or
these
emergency
big
if it's not
events
a
will stop,
insurance
but,
one.
because we've come a long way in the last 2 years as far as bringing our maintenance plans up. And that's why we're doing the small engine maintenance, and that's why we're trying to do these little things that go wrong here and there, and keep the tires on off years and things like that. So I'm hoping eventually we don't have to deal with catastrophic events, but sometimes we can't predict it. I didn't predict that the generator would go out on the rescue this year. $14,000 on a generator is a big hit to a $120,000 budget. So can I push stuff off till next year, which is only 2 months away? Probably, but then that's gonna raise next year's budget. And I know the voters have a say, but at some point, we can't keep pushing stuff off and pushing stuff off. But with that being said, I'm willing to find out what the tripod lights and spotlights are so that we can reduce that if necessary for next year. If we don't need to do it, then we won't, then I'll take it out of the budget. That's why the general public has credit cards. And then they kind of pay it off as they go. But we don't have a credit card, we can just throw it on and pay it off. Anything else for the 432 account?
No.
433, Wendy, you want to explain this one?
You're on the roll.
433.
She's leaving you out on your own.
She's doing fine, that's why I have the uniform on. Last year, we started to look at we came up with a computer replacement plan under, actually, Mr. Lage's recommendation. And
I didn't
we're gonna-
say anything, so don't blame it on me. Everybody
You
comes in and
wanted us-
This
says,
is twice
oh,
now.
he said this
You
last
wanted
year.
us to put a replacement computer so that we could constantly be replacing. We have that in the plan.
How many computers do you currently have?
We have 3, 4.
2 working. Well,
We have one that works for the key fobs, we have yours, we have the officers, and then we have the training one. So we have 4.
And you're planning on replacing 2?
No, this year we're planning on, what we have right now is we have a printer,
2 printers.
we have a printer at Wendy's desk and a printer at the officer's desk, and then we've got this old antiquated copy machine. All of them need to be looked at to be replaced. And so rather than replacing all of them, what we want to do is replace them with just one that we can wirelessly
It'll do everything.
internet, that will do everything. It'll
Monitor
make
stuff.
copies, it'll make everything. And by doing that, we cut down on, we're looking to also put in a maintenance agreement of $115 a quarter, which will then cover all the ink and everything so that we don't have to constantly buy ink for all these other printers.
Do we have,
So this goes up by $1,841 because that's the cost of the printer for this year. And then next year it'll go back down to around that 1,000 when we talk about replacing that next computer.
under Mr. Lage's computer upgrade program that I've heard so much about,
Now you got me in trouble.
do we have any plan to standardize computers, printers throughout
We
the
do.
town? So regardless of, they know what they're going to buy based on what the town recommends?
Typically, all of the recommendations, when they ask for a computer, and I'm assuming you did the same thing, they go through CADNet to say, well, what is
Okay,
it that
they
you
go through the
need?
same vendor. I'm more looking at everybody having the same type of printer. That one of our big expenses seems to be toner and so on and so forth, so it might behoove us to have common usage equipment.
So one of the things that we looked at was, as opposed to buying toner every year, which would cost us about $1,500, if we buy the maintenance agreement for this printer, it's $115 a quarter, which comes out to $460 a year, and that covers, they replace all the toner, they do all the regular maintenance, they do everything on it.
The printer we're looking at is the same one PD has.
That's what I'm trying to get them to start leaning toward. I know maybe you guys
That's why I'm back
do,
here.
it's the rest of the management.
I'm the backup.
The only printer I'm looking at is this one here.
Okay. I try to get it from
And
everybody.
it'll also allow us to do it wirelessly, because right now, I can't print anything unless I email it to Wendy,
And I don't want to make you.
because she won't let me in her computer.
It hasn't passed things. That's what
Anything else on the 433 account?
What is the cost of the printer?
$2,841. to buy a printer. You can lease it for 3 years and that's.
Well, it says
$1,000.
computer services increases to 2,841.
Yeah, because
That will cover that.
last year was 1,000 that you gave us, that we put in for the first computer replacement. So it increases.
So this 2,841 is strictly for a printer.
Just for printers.
Yes.
The maintenance agreement, we're gonna take out of office supplies.
So we won't be looking to replace another computer until 2019.
So, yep. You can't be buying a printer for 2,841.
I got quote.
Yep, she got quotes.
I am on top of this.
Did you, maybe I just misunderstood. Did you say it was like the printer, oh, the PD? PDs, okay.
Yeah, we don't need
Seems to be-
this.
That's what I'm saying, you can't buy that for
No,
that.
we don't need that.
I'll buy a dozen if you got them.
We don't need that.
Right.
If you look at the communications, the 530 account is an addendum at the back. And it shows what we have currently, our needs, and then what stock is the wrong word really, it's more what we have on hand. One of the larger expenses is the portable programming with the New Ipswich Emergency Management. None of our radios right now, with the exception of mine and Gary's, I think, have that emergency management frequency in it, which we found at the flood thing that we did last week, that it's a little tough because we have no frequency that we can talk within our own town. We have 2 channels that are labeled Town 1 and Town 2 in our radios, but they bleed over into Hillsborough County. So they told us we had to get off of them. So I have talked with Jim and Tim, and we determined the best way for us to communicate within town on a town event, ice storm or flooding or anything like that, would be to put that New Ipswich Emergency Management frequency into all of our radios.
The very last line, install and repair general hours, what is that?
Vehicles, where if they install new radios, if we have to repair radios and vehicles, things like that, we have to get done each year.
And so that's $80 is an hourly contract by the fire shop,
Yep.
and we just estimated the 13 hours.
That's through Beltronics, and they come out and do it, so they charge, obviously.
So the ones we have scheduled to do right now would be, Gary needs his radio installed in his truck. Pete Kelleher is a new officer in 2016, and he needs a radio installed, so that's the labor to install them. And that's something we can't do ourselves. So Beltronics over in Nashville,
Yeah, they're national.
they do it.
Can I ask my naive question?
I owe you one right now.
Do portable radios not work? That they need to be built in?
Say that
So-
again?
Portables, like one of them, Pete Gallagher lives
Oh,
all
portables are handheld,
Yeah.
portables are installed in a vehicle.
You can't, a
And-
portable won't reach outwards,
Portable-
reach out where he is.
Okay,
Does
so there's a
not have
difference
the
between the
power.
two.
Yeah,
That's
the
all.
mobile is a lot.
Does not have the power to reach.
I believe portable is roughly 5 watts, and the mobiles are on average about 50.
Thank you. So since this is one of those line items that is going, I thought it was up a few thousand, but maybe not.
Yeah, 1260.
A lot of the stuff just wasn't getting done, so now we're just trying to, again, each year play catch up with a little bit here and there, work with what we have, and then try and come up with a plan of fixing things.
So one thing we had happen over this past year is that we were donated a surplus of pagers.
Are those the ones that need repair?
No.
Yeah, the repair.
See the maintenance line.
That was.
No, I saw pager repair and I'm like, oh, there's a number we can,
If I'm not mistaken, the pager repair was not a cost we factored for last year. I don't think there was a specific line in last year's budget.
yeah.
It wasn't.
No, I'm just looking at your addendum B.
So we ended up having to send out 4 pagers for repair this year, and they were $175 a piece to repair. Or 174. So we factored 5.
We do have some that need to get fixed, we just don't want to do it this year, because obviously we're gonna go over our budget.
What does a pager cost?
About
Five
$500.
something?
$500 for the new ones, so we're trying to stay away from that, because that's expensive.
We received about 35 pagers from someone who ended up donating them, so.
So these repairs are on our original ones, not the ones we just got, so now we're trying to get an actual set of pagers that are complete, that are workable. Some of them have been dropped, I mean, obviously throughout the year, someone runs it over or something, you gotta send it out. And this is through dispatch that we get them fixed through, and they just charge us.
So do I understand correctly, is that the ones that you received that were donated?
No, those are working shape. Now we're trying to get our original ones that we have now within the department working shape.
But I was thinking the ones that you have donated are now gonna replace those that you're currently using?
Yes and no, we're gonna keep them as we get new members, we'll now officially have pagers to give out, but if one breaks, we can swap it out with that while we try and get them fixed. We just don't wanna throw them away at $400 a piece.
Okay.
And right now, our Explorers and stuff are not carrying. Some of them don't have pagers. because we
But
don't
just
have enough to give.
hypothetically, if you have currently 20 pages, and did I understand that somebody donated 35?
They have 39.
We have 39 altogether.
In stock, you have
Yeah,
39.
numbers mixed up.
So
Oh,
Mike,
okay.
39 total.
Total.
Mike, you
Okay.
said that you got donated 30 pages.
Yes, it was somewhere around.
So is that part of that equation in stock of 39?
Yes,
Okay. So prior to the donation of 30 pages, you only had 9 pages.
correct. Which,
Well-
half of those didn't work, so it's not like we can use them anyways.
Sorry, he's asking total altogether among the membership.
Oh, God, between the membership, we have a lot
It's
more.
not
than
right.
See, that's what I'm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, if you've
There's
got
no way.
39 just sitting around in the, at the
Yeah.
station, do we really,
No, we
Need-
don't have that either.
I can't believe you have 39 members, do you? How many members do you actually have?
29?
I don't have a number.
All right, I'll have it in a minute. Go ahead, keep talking.
But I guess, I'm not sure.
'Cause I was getting
exactly what
confused at the numbers
total
because-
stock of pages are right now. I don't have the inventory sheet,
Well,
but.
thanks for asking the question, Dan, because I was curious.
yeah, cause I'm just trying to figure, again, it's one of those things that if, I understand we need to get them fixed, but like how many extra working pages do we have sitting at the station right now?
Do you have the sheet with you?
I don't have it with me.
I
I'll
mean,
have to-
we do have a surplus of pages. We do-
That work?
That work, yes.
Yeah, surplus like 2 or 3, or surplus of 10 or 20?
I'd probably say 10 plus maybe.
Okay, so I'm just asking, I understand we have other ones that need to be fixed, but if we're looking at $1,260, if we could cut that, by 80%, anything to try to,
Yep.
But the way I'm looking at it is if, do we want to throw that pager away?
I'm not saying throw it away, but what I'm saying is if you've got,
We can, I understand what you're saying, we, take that repair cost for that specific damaged pager and just kind of set the pager aside. But then, now we have an non-working pager sitting there, it's just gonna remain in the
How
cabinet.
many pagers break on average a year? You
So-
say they're dropped and so
So
on and
we
so forth.
we sent 4 out this year so far.
Just
So-
in a couple of months.
Well,
So a half dozen is a fair
Well, you
number?
said, yeah, you
I'd say half
six.
I would
dozen.
say,
Okay, so
Yeah,
you need to
that's
have
half
at
dozen.
least annually a half dozen, you've got 10 right now. So if you sent out 1 for repair or 2 for repair each year, you'd be able to get caught up
we could probably.
Yeah, we could cut it.
as opposed to 4, right?
So what are we looking for page reviews?
I'm totally lost here, guys. Really help me out with a basic thing.
Sure.
If we have 30, round numbers, 30 firefighters, They all have a pager, so that buzzes them, there's a fire. So there's 30. You got a donation of 35.
My numbers were wrong.
30?
I-
10?
No, we got more than 10.
That's it.
Some of them are parts.
It's about 10.
What they got is a full, everybody's got a pager plus 10 extras.
Don't hold me to the 10 number.
That work.
Okay,
That
okay,
work.
that work.
And how many you got that don't work right now?
I'd say 3 or 4 that don't work.
So you got 3 or 4 altogether that don't work.
Yes, and we did get some that were donated that don't work. Some of
Okay,
the
so
funds.
if you did 4 this year, then all of your pagers would be functioning at the end of 2018, assuming nothing else broke.
If we did 4, we've already
You
sent
did
out
4.
4 for repair.
If you got the 4 you're asking for, then
You're
you'd be completely caught up, right?
Yeah, we're asking, yeah. we're
They're asking for 5.
Well, yeah, I'm factoring in 5, yes,
So you'd be caught up, if you got what you were asking for, you'd be caught up.
right.
And then you should be able to go to a routine of how many a year from that point on to maintain that level.
Right.
I would say a half dozen, under a half dozen.
Does that make sense?
But see, that's what this number, we have 5 in here, is because we're expecting, on average annually to, have 5 that end up getting damaged.
Well, I understand that, but then again, if you have 30 pagers out, if everybody, say you have 30 people.
We have 28
Say you have-
firefighters and seven explorers.
All right, so you got 35 people?
Yeah.
Or is-
35, yeah.
And so-
Like,
and
that's
everybody
a
has a
90s map.
pager, and then you have 10 extras. So you got enough to replace almost a third of your pagers in any one year without any additional cost so far.
Okay.
Okay. So they have 4 broken, they wanna get the 4 replaced, and be completely 100% functional and have enough to replace a significant amount, which should last them a number of years. So the question is, do you wanna do it now and do 4, or do you wanna get into a 1 a year type thing, or?
That's why I'm looking, they're looking at 5, and I'm saying if we're
You've already
talking a
had
difference of 1.
You've had 4 repaired already this year.
We've sent 4 out already.
Just
this year.
repaired 2.
So
Yeah,
your
compared
insurance
to
policy
next
would
year,
be
we got
having
2.
5 done this year.
And so.
But at some point in time, they're
I
gonna
don't say
fall
problem
behind
with
because
5.
they're saying on
Oh, yeah.
average
I'm
year,
just
they're
saying,
6.
they've got enough to maintain, they
They
need to
get damaged,
basically,
drop.
I think they just need to pick a number of reserve pagers and say we need to keep a dozen backups, period.
Now that I know how many firefighters and how many explorers, because the explorers typically don't get a pager,
Well,
correct?
They all have pagers.
if we
Everyone
have-
has
yeah,
pagers.
But if we have them,
They
Why
can't
not?
respond, they have to respond lights, without lights and sirens, so they respond with the flow of traffic, but they have to know when there's a call.
So
So
you
they
got
do
a
get
total
pagers.
of 35.
Yeah,
right,
I mean, I don't have the exact number of in-house pagers or what we have as a whole inventory, I don't have that number with me, but, I mean, I guess there's a few things, to look at too, is the particular pager we have, they don't actually produce it anymore, we can't go ahead and buy anymore, because they've gone to the next model, and pretty soon they're gonna go to the next model after that. So, at some point, parts are gonna be obscure, we're not gonna be able to do it, so, I mean, to get them repaired while we can, and then try to make them last longer before we have to purchase new pagers, which will probably end up being closer to 600 by the time we end up switching over to new models. In my mind,
So-
it's better to try to kind of keep up with the damaged ones, keep them repaired, so that we have a stock that if for whatever reason we can't get parts for this one, can't get parts for that one, we still have some in reserve.
Well,
that we
Mike-
can kind of rotate.
Realistically, now that you got spotted dog,
Yeah.
how often do you really look at, even put your pager on?
You can't
you
respond.
can't
without your
respond
pager
based
going
on spotted dog.
But you can't respond based on spotted dog, but
I use my
Right.
pager's on 24/7.
So is mine.
The
Yeah,
problem
I guess
is-
my point was more of, I'm not saying that
It would be
next
nice.
year you can't put more pagers on,
Yeah.
but on this page alone, we're looking at $3,000 worth of increases on this sample page. So we're looking at a $3,000 increase
I believe
on
it's
2
over
line items.
$1,000 increase over last year's budget.
1841 on the one above it, and 1260 on this one. That's $3,000.
Oh, Oh, because you're combining the.
Yeah, I'm
components.
combining on this, so I'm saying on this one page, we've got $3,000 worth
Oh,
of
this one
increases.
page.
Can we control that this
You
year?
can,
Both of those lines will drop next year,
Yep,
and then you could add 2 more pagers and still be under what these 2 pages are, or
So we
these
can
2
cut
items.
this down to 2 pages and just do 2 pages if that's what you guys are.
Yeah, that, I'm just looking for anything,
Yeah, I
you know, cause, I think I'm not saying we don't want your budget to pass, but we have to be smart and go, if everything we're doing is an increase, we increase by, we lower by 1,500 and raise by 3,000, we're still got a $1,500 increase. At some point, the people are gonna go, we can't increase everything. So what I'm saying is if we can be a little frugal, and the next year we can be a little less frugal on those line items because we're more frugal somewhere else, let's see what we can do. So I'm asking if we can do 2 this year, and then next year do 4. In 2 years, we've done 6 instead of 3 and 3.
So if we did 2, it'd be 348 for that line, and it would bring us down to 3667.
and I'm thinking that as I look at things, I mean, even
And this was like,
like pager clips and repairs and things like that, we can reduce, I think, all of those by some extent.
and it may not cost, I mean, we could find a better deal and get it cheaper, but this is just the cost as of right now. So, I mean, we could always go and get cheaper, which is great, but just
But I'm
when we're
saying-
looking at cost now, this is what it was.
But I'm saying we can reduce, like, instead of, and I know we're only talking $15 here and there, but $15 is $15. We, reduce the antennas to 3 as opposed to 5, and reduce the pager clips to however many pager clips did we give out this year. I think we could reduce, the batteries become an issue because the batteries don't last very long. That's one I would rather not see reduced. But antennas and
Well, we could
radio clips
reduce-
and all of those, we could reduce all of those by a number so that we have just enough in reserve to be able to replace ones that get
Yeah,
broken.
place, or if you're blessed and have a new firefighter move into town or whatever, I mean, but, and then, like I said, then next year, when you lower computer services down to 1,000,
Yeah.
then it's not so hard to look and go, well, can we do 3 pagers and a couple more clips?
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable. We'll see what we can do with that.
So I think we can get that down by, can we get it down to 3,000?
Can we come back to that and get come back with that, a later date, with a better number for you guys? You want to eliminate something now, or what do you?
So we can eliminate 2 batteries if we drop it down another 120.
I think we can get it down to 3,000.
3,000, you wanna say
3,000.
3,000?
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Plus the 2,400 for Comcast.
Not for this current budget that we're looking at, but do you have a plan to replace it with new pagers? Or do you have a replacement plan?
We don't right now
Since you no
because we
longer
have
get
enough.
the old ones, you're gonna have to go to something?
Yeah, so it hasn't come to the point where we actually need to go to the new ones
What
yet.
I'm trying to avoid is
But,
coming
yeah.
to the point where you
That-
have 38 people or 35 people need them at $600 a
That's
piece.
definitely gonna be a big expenditure, but ideally, I think the only time that we're actually gonna need to purchase the new ones is if, we run out of our surplus that we have, and we need to purchase an extra one this year to make up for that, and I would assume that we wouldn't need to unless there's something, with the communication, with the frequencies or the operation of the pager itself that changes with the dispatch center. I wouldn't assume we'd have to go purchase 30 new pagers all at once.
You
We
assume-
could,
Yeah.
we could
let's
go a
keep-
couple of years on
You
these.
could-
Alright, let's keep moving along here. General supplies,
560 account, did we skip that one? 560 account dues and services, we decreased that.
Decrease.
We got rid of some annual dues that we didn't really think we were using, so we've come down in the 560 account. You wanna go to general supplies?
Yes. that's
so
what-
just on that budget, and believe me, I just like to see numbers match. It totals 2260, and you've got it at 2,300. Is there a reason for that?
Wendy likes
There
to
was a
round
pret-
things up.
Oh,
No, you said there was a potential increase in that last one, I don't know what SMFAA stands for.
Yes. Right now, the dues for Sauhegan Mutual Fire Aid Association is $1,000.
I have a question
And
for
it
you
looks like
now
it's
that I'm
gonna
thinking
come up
about.
to $25.
We just signed off on an invoice for Sauhegan
Yeah,
Mutual.
Fire Mutual Aid Association.
Yeah. I thought mutual aid was just that, mutual aid.
This is
Hazard material?
the association of all of the fire chiefs on the eastern side of our world. So Amherst, Bedford.
And what do we get from them?
We get the use of the hazmat team.
Now,
We
were we
get-
not previously in conjunction with whatever, Nashua on the hazmat?
That is Nashua. That's the hazmat team for now. That's the Nashua hazmat team. So Nashua's
The invoice
hazmat-
was Bedford. That's what threw me off.
It's because Bedford is where the budget guy
It's all the same?
lives.
It's
Yeah.
combined.
Well, this was the Bedford Fire Department or whatever. That's where it was
He sent the
going
bills
to.
out because he's the treasurer of the Sauhegan Fire Mutual Aid Association.
Okay,
But Nashua is our hazmat team and we pay into that.
okay.
And the reason this might go up by another % is there is also a Swiftwater rescue team that has now come into play there through this association, and that they're raising this annual fee to cover replacement cost of suits, things like that, that the team might use. So we get the use of those teams by paying into this association.
Well, and granted, my only question was matching the two numbers, but just because we signed off on this invoice recently, this is fresh in my mind, it was only like $930.
I don't know what it was, but
Yeah, it was 900 and we just signed off last week on it.
yeah, it's
So.
nine and
Yeah,
change, I
yeah.
know it is.
Yep. So I'm just wondering, should we keep that 2260 that you have as the total versus the 2300 that's on the front sheet here?
Or reduce it to 2,200. If it's off, there's a
We can reduce it to
$60, $70 difference
2,200.
in the invoice,
Yeah,
right?
reduce it to 2,200.
But I just thought you just said the fee's going up.
Well, even if it goes up, if it was 930 or 970 and it goes up
You're taking your
$25,
chance?
it's gonna be
Take our
1,000.
chance.
What'd you say?
I said, we'll just take our chance. Let's go to 22, we can do it.
22,
We'll do it.
22,
The most it's gonna go up is $25.
I'm a giving person.
So if it was 9, whatever, 60, it goes up $25.
You're a liar.
It's not my money, John.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't pay taxes. I'll be bills.
The general supplies, kept the
Mileage?
same.
Mileage.
Oh, mileage, sorry. Mileage is increased. I know that discussion has come up on why I'm not driving the command vehicle, but I don't.
Well, you should. That's why we got the command vehicle. That
Well,
was the selling point.
yeah, but that was a previous chief.
I understand.
So, let me tell you what
So do
we're
we get
doing
rid of the
with it.
command vehicle?
No,
We
Well,
just
we're
say
not gonna use
$1,000
it,
for the
right.
rack.
We're not gonna use it, so why
no,
keep it?
we're using it. Right now, we're using it for, rescue calls in order to not run the rescue if we don't need to. So we're saving, so if we get a call for a lift assist from Sauhegan or something, we used to run the rescue, now we're running the command vehicle. I hate calling it the command vehicle. So EMTs are now responding in that instead of responding with the big truck, which is cutting down on the mileage on the truck, the tires, all that wear and tear. We're also using it right now because engine 3 is a crew of 5 and we can only put 2 people in it because of the safety issues. Because the open cab in the back and the double seat belt in the front. So if we have a call with a fire, engine 3's crew is going in that command vehicle. The other
Okay,
thing,
so, I mean, I understand you have use for it, but let's go back to why are we paying mileage?
because I'm putting in mileage now on my vehicle to go to things that I didn't used to go, that I used to be able to cover the mileage for meetings, things like that. Like Monadnock Chiefs last week in Peterborough, I used to cover that because they were combined with my job at the state. So I was going representing the state, and I'm also representing the town of New Ipswich. There's no mileage incurred there. And then because I'm not driving the command vehicle, there are times like the flooding last week where we had a crew in the command vehicle and we had a crew in my vehicle and we're going around and checking roads.
But I mean, the responsibility for checking roads is the DPW, not the fire department.
I got assigned to check roads in
Okay.
my own vehicle.
Well, again, I'm just recalling the previous chief came in and said, look, you know, if we get a command vehicle, we can use it for that and also use it to get people to, at that time it was classes, training.
We have no guidelines right now on the use of this command vehicle. So I don't drive it because last year we did 160 calls. If I'm gonna drive it, then that means I need to drive it to the gym, to the pizza place, to the mall, to wherever, in case we have a call. Because the way that our department works and every other department around here works is if there's a call, the chief officer, either Gary or myself, goes directly to the scene. If I'm driving my personal vehicle and have to go to the station to pick up the incident command vehicle, then there's a delay in that initial response. So in order to get rid of that delay, if you want me to drive the command vehicle, then I need to drive the command vehicle all the time, which means for personal use, which I don't think I should be doing.
Right, and so we've
And-
never operated under that premise, so why would we?
always have. David was always questioning, why is that vehicle in your driveway? Why is that vehicle going to the pizza place? Why is that vehicle? He was always questioning that.
Chief drives his home.
If we did more calls than we did, say we did 300 calls, and we were busy, or the fire chief was at the station every day, then the justification for driving that command vehicle is there. But I think the money we save by me just putting in for mileage is a whole lot more than it would be if I drove that vehicle all the time in case we had a call. I don't feel right doing that.
I guess I just don't see what the difference is. If the vehicle is at the fire station and you need to go to a training program, that you take the vehicle and you go to the training program. If an alarm goes off while you're gone, are you not responding because somebody else is responding?
No, I'm not talking about to trainings. I'm talking about on a day-to-day thing like it used to be before.
But we're not talking a day-to-day. I'm talking for the invoice that we saw recently. And it was for using your personal vehicle to do things. And I'm asked Joanne is, well, why aren't they using the command vehicle? That's what we got a command vehicle for.
Because in order to use that command vehicle for that, I'd have to have the vehicle all the time.
Why would you need the vehicle all the time?
Because everything that I operate for a scene right now is in my vehicle. So if I'm gonna use the command vehicle to do this, then I have to move all of that stuff into that command vehicle in order to be able to use the command vehicle. Can't just jump in and turn the key and go.
Is the command vehicle not set up
It
to
doesn't
be a
have my
command?
gear, it doesn't have my portable radios, it doesn't have my accountability boards right now, it doesn't have any of that stuff.
So it's really not a command vehicle.
Not at the moment. And I don't see, and I'm gonna go, I don't see, we don't need a command vehicle. What we need is a utility vehicle for when guys go to classes to carry gear. When we go on a scene and we've got to return equipment back from the, so hose that has to be washed, all that right now, that was the original intent of that vehicle. It wasn't to be a command vehicle. It was to do those things that were being done by other people's personal vehicles. Putting hose in, taking dirty equipment back from scenes, hazardous materials, because that stuff right now is going into personal vehicles, and it shouldn't be.
Why isn't that going on the truck? brush truck engine, whatever you call these vehicles that
There's no
we
place to
have.
put it. You'd have to load it back. It comes off the truck, it gets dirty, you can't put it back on the truck till you clean it. You clean it back at the station.
Brush
it has
truck,
to
doesn't
get-
that have a bed on it?
Oh, it doesn't have any place to put stuff. It's all full. Come on down, I'll show you.
I
That
probably
brush
will
truck
take you
is
up on that
full.
offer sometime, because I gotta believe that you've got a vehicle that you can put things into, whether it's a trailer.
But on your, so we get a building fire, at the end of the fire, we've got all these hoses that need to be cleaned up,
Yeah.
brought back to station, washed, dried, and then we can load them back on the truck. Problem is,
Dirty gear.
you know, you've got, you know, on average, 600 to 800 feet of hose that's dirty, and where are you gonna put it? I mean, we don't bring a trailer.
I'm
to
thinking
a
that,
fire.
and again, I'm not a firefighter,
Yeah,
so
no, that's understandable.
I'm thinking you're like any other fire department. It goes back on the truck, you take it to the fire station, it comes off the truck, you clean in the hose, you clean in the truck, clean hose goes back on.
No, they
No.
usually do.
No
DOV
department
or-
does that.
How's the, take City of Nashua, I don't see the people driving in personal vehicles.
Nope, because they have a utility truck that comes and does that stuff.
And what is that utility vehicle?
It's
A pickup truck?
It's
It's a pickup truck or something.
A hose reel truck?
Yep,
No.
that picks up the dirty hose and it actually reels up the hose.
And it's a utility truck,
And
like
it's
a
like a
pickup truck
pickup
or a flatbed, which what we tried to get, similar to what we tried to get from
Right.
Groton, a utility.
Whatever happened with that?
They-
Selectmen squashed it, didn't they?
Selectmen squashed it and then they put it out to an auction and they sold it for $1. And we didn't get the word on the auction until it was too late.
Wow.
The best part, there were
So-
multiple items in that lot too.
So I can't explain to you why we have the command vehicle that we have. What we truly need, which we don't have right now, is something to haul hose and stuff. But I'm not looking for that truck. I'm only trying to utilize the best way that I can that command vehicle. And the way that I see it is the less I drive it, and I'm not putting in mileage for everything. Like I'm not putting in mileage if I happen to be coming by and I pick up the mail. But in the past, there's got to be some value to wear and tear on my vehicle for all the stuff that we do.
There is, and in my view, you shouldn't be using the vehicle, and that's why we got that vehicle. I won't call it a command vehicle. That's why we got that vehicle, so that the person that, and I remember at the time, it was supposed to be that the person if I understood the way they were organized, was rather than the same crews always getting up in the middle of the night to respond, they split it into two groups.
Yep.
And whoever was the commander of this group would have the vehicle at their property while he was on call duty, whatever. And then the following 2 weeks or whenever it was, they swapped, the other person would have it. And that's how they would get to respond.
I can't speak to that because I wasn't chief then, but I can tell you that.
No, but you were on the force.
I was gonna say, but I can tell you that the only person that ever did that was David.
But who would have been the other person?
Me and Gary.
That would have had the vehicle then?
Yep, and we never did it. We never took it.
No, it was either David's house, and there were times, I know at one point it was at the fire station, it was being used by the, I don't wanna say I don't know if it was Explorers or whoever was maintaining, that would sit at the firehouse, they would use it to run to get mail, or I would also see it up at.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't have it both ways, so I'm trying to do it the cheapest way possible, which is just to put in mileage.
We move along, I don't
I
need to
think
discuss it
this
any
is a
further.
null thing. There's an issue way farther than this, and that's a police vehicle going back and forth to Marlboro every morning, and the town taxpayers are paying gas mileage for that. And that's almost like
On
another
that,
bump.
we're
bump.
paying for that vehicle and we're paying for the
Correct.
fuel.
But it's also a bump, and if he was to pay for it himself,
that mileage or that gas, he's not paying that gas himself, but if he was to pay it out of his own pocket, that is a decrease in his pay. He's actually making more money an hour, but we won't go there. Fighting over $300 or $100 or $200 because she uses a personal vehicle, I'd give it to her. I'll give it to you next week, right on my pay. Because that's null and void.
When you bring your
I totally
expenditures
understand
down-
what you're saying. Because we're fighting over $300, but yet we're seeing another head of a department taking a company or a town vehicle that we're putting gas in, and he's reaping the reward because it ain't coming out of his pocket to put the money in the tank. So I think this is.
But that's the,
What? Benefit of being a police chief?
yeah, exactly.
No.
It is.
I
It
disagree.
is. Well, we can
Years
disagree.
ago, we had a police.
It has
chief.
always been that.
Ray Broadley.
I'm just saying that.
Ray
I
Broadley
think-
I'm
drove his own vehicle
Pull
to the
Brian
police
here in a
station.
minute. I'd like to get
I
through the
disagree.
budgets.
Yeah, let's-
I mean,
I
We're
disagree.
talking about $300 mileage, right?
Yeah, I disagree.
Can I just say one thing? Right now, the need for this vehicle in other areas is more important than me driving.
fine.
The EMTs going to medical calls, the crew from E3, I can't not get them to the scene because then they're gonna be in their personal vehicles.
I'm good with this. I mean, I think we've discussed this to
Alright, good.
death, in all honesty. As far as the
625.
mileage line, you've spent $11. Is that a real number?
The $300 is, yes, I just put in a $50.
No, there was another one that just came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can we move on to another line?
Do you itemize your mileage?
I'm good- I'm
Do you
good.
keep a record of your
I
mileage?
have
good
a
discussing that.
running thing that I
You
sent.
It's a policy
Okay.
thing. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
And that's something we can talk about.
We will, yes, yeah.
The 610 account. It stays the same as this year. And I think we're right on target to that amount. Any comments?
Nope.
Office supplies were decreasing because of the new printer. Because that maintenance fee is going to take care of a good portion of the printers and ink things that we spend. Electricity, we're gonna keep the same. It looks like we might be over this year. Mark has been down to do, just like he did with all the other town buildings, a study with the girl from hopefully from the grant to put in LED lights, which might help reduce that cost. And the other thing I haven't figured out how to address yet is there's something that has caused an increase in our electricity at the station, and we cannot figure out what it is. And I called the electric company to ask them for advice, and they said, you just kind of have to troubleshoot it till you find it. I don't know that that they were great help. At one point, we thought it was engine 3, because that's when we saw a huge jump, was when we started plugging that in. But since that point, we have unplugged it, and we've seen a little bit of a decrease in electricity, but not enough. And it's not the two side office buildings, it's only the station, and I don't know what has caused that increase. We looked at rates, we've looked at everything, and I don't know if there's some way we can find a way to
There
reduce
is.
the cost, but
Is it the usage that's actually gone up?
our usage is up.
Not much.
And you know what could cause
So
that?
last year was about average of what?
Is a loose lug.
Usage had.
A loose neutral lug in your panel box.
I don't
So
know
if you got an
anything about
infrared
electricity, so-
scanner, Mike, take it to your panel box and see if your neutral lug is very hot, because that will suck up electricity like you would not believe.
It went up like 25, 30%?
Yeah.
Huge, and we're paying bill of like 225, 200 to 225 a month in the station itself. And we have some months up to 417, averaging somewhere.
Yeah, the thing is,
around
if your actual usage hasn't gone up, it's the rate,
Somebody do
the
That's
use,
gone up.
The
okay.
usage went up,
Okay.
but we haven't done anything different. We don't leave lights on.
No, but he's
Um,
not.
But does that
And it
kick you into a
jumped-
different
I'll go do it.
bracket?
That's
Say it
fine.
again?
On the utility bills, when you use X amount of kilowatt hours, you get billed at this certain rate. Once you jump into another bracket, if that has been significant enough, that gets you into a different bracket. Just check that.
And the increase started before the exhaust system went in, so it's not the exhaust system.
Yeah, it started in like April. We took a considerable jump starting in April.
And did it stay consistently up there?
Yeah, when we were paying 200 to 225, and we went 1 month to 364, 417, 325, 366.
And this was warmer months, this was not,
This was summer months.
this was not the cold where we're, in the dark where we're turning the lights on, so.
Yep.
We're trying to troubleshoot it, we don't have an answer yet. We decreased in heat because we haven't expended our total expenses every year.
I'm wondering why you didn't go down to what you had budgeted. Somebody did the calculation on it, and it came out to 5,041. Up top, they said, well, 5,100, but then we're up to 55.
Because we were afraid we didn't want to go over it. So we allowed a little bit of a wiggle room in case it's colder this winter or not. But if you want to decrease it,
I wouldn't match it based, if, I'm assuming the 1,650 and the 1,200 are,
Going off of what the averages were at the beginning of this year and the end of last year. The gallons that we,
for 1 year.
right,
Yeah, okay.
we really don't get into
So
it in the summer.
5,100?
I would say that.
okay?
You know,
51.
51?
I was gonna ask, what were we paying last year a gallon for fuel oil? Do we know?
I don't recall. This, with this,
I
is
wanna say
going
it
off
was
the numbers,
199
the
last
town
time I
meeting.
saw
Oh, so we're going to 59, oh, I see.
So it hasn't changed much from the 189.
Yeah, I think.
But you never know, 2 months from now, it might jump to 350, you know?
This is the rates that we were told by the town meeting, so,
Yes, no, this year's numbers, yeah.
yeah.
Postage, we kept at $25 just for, if we have to send certified, every once in a while we have to send notifications on things like fireworks displays.
I'm gonna ask you something after the meeting.
Okay. 635. We decreased.
Again, that's one that I'm wondering why the backup has one number, but the front is different,
Again, that was just in case,
just in
just
case.
in case of fluctuation in numbers, because it's all an estimate. We'd rather have a little bit too more in there than not enough.
What's the actual number, because you've got different numbers than we do, what's the actual on fuel spent this year to this point?
Give me a second.
Yeah, thank you.
You gotta be significantly under budget, because mine shows 1418,
Right,
and I don't
We're
know.
way down because our call volume's been way down. so we are low.
1539.93.
1539.93. So, about 50 a month, right, roughly?
Mhm.
We're averaging a couple $1,000.
And that's having to go all the way over to Hefner's, huh?
Yeah, because they're cheaper.
So I'd say
I'd-
2,500 bucks.
I'm gonna go to 2,000.
I'm good. I'm good with 25.
25,
25.
okay. Books and periodicals are anything we need for codes, NFPA. It stays the same.
The codes change that much, that's really expensive.
Every so many years, NFPA codes, that they change, I believe it's what, every 5 years, chief?
Except that, no, it's more frequent than that, except this year's didn't pass.
Exactly, it's only if they're adopted.
Yeah.
But there's,
But these are addendums and stuff that you can get when they make a change to the life safety codes or, you know, they amend it or they, whatever, I get bulletins on it all the time. If there's equipment new and replaced. We're still working on replacing the remainder of our 4-inch hose. We have not replaced any of our 2.5, so our plan is to start replacing that, 1 3/4 inch.
Can I ask a question on this? I know we had the discussion. Is the helmets not part of the?
No, they're not,
They're not.
correct. And we got it this year because I didn't know I was supposed to encumber money last year, so we bought helmets last year for the guys that got new gear. And Roger didn't pay the bill because I didn't, and then I didn't encumber the money because I didn't know I was supposed to, so it's hitting out of our budget this year, which is $2,000, which we weren't planning on. So our forestry helmets, we're looking at replacing 30 of those at $65 each. We have never replaced those since we bought them. Some of them are 15 years old.
What's the difference?
They're a lighter, they're almost like a utility, well, they're like a utility helmet, but they're a little bit stronger. They've got a suspension they're kind of like a workman's utility.
Okay.
But they're a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger brim. We have one captain that needs a new helmet that we didn't replace last year when he got his new gear. There are 4 guys that need new boots.
Those aren't covered either out of the capital reserve?
Correct.
It's just the jackets?
It's anything that, if it is
'Cause it's a consumable.
firefighter individual, if it, like a helmet, it's your helmet. Can't go to anybody else because it's fitted to you.
It's a consumable.
Isn't the jacket the same thing?
No. Jackets, medium, large, extra
We fit
large.
jackets to people, but when they leave, we pass them down to somebody else because they're so expensive. We don't say, yeah, you're leaving, go ahead, take your coat. So helmets, boots,
What it is
hoods
it's the way that
are consumables.
the account is worded. If we could change the way the
That's what
account is
I'm
worded.
thinking, is do we just put a warrant article to change the wording of the capital reserve?
Well, we've talked about doing that in the past as well because we want to make sure that as we start looking at that replacement plan for the SCBA's, as they come due, we wanted to make sure that we could take it out of that capital reserve.
So who's gonna drop that warrant article?
Well, let me guess.
Why did you say that?
Because you were the furthest away.
And what I need to do is research, because I think we were looking to research, I think we did research to find out that we can.
So noted.
Yeah, if you can change anything as long as the,
Yeah, we had to go back and look back to when that warrant article was written, and I think we did the research, and I can't honestly remember what the,
I mean, I think that's
Because I know
easy.
that-
The first
Yeah,
year,
'cause this
probably
came-
Rick Hewitt was the chief.
yeah, so it was back in.
It was,
Yeah.
So,
back in 1991.
okay,
That's a good era.
Right, I'll find it.
Yeah, it was.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, but it's just the way it's worded, is that it makes it so that you can't buy disposables or, consumables, basically, however you wanna look at it. It makes it so, which I think is ridiculous, because, yeah, why shouldn't you be able to buy a helmet when it goes with, if you buy his new gear, why doesn't a helmet go with the gear? Yeah,
and it's not, they're not cheap.
right.
Life safety rope for rescues, and we have never replaced that since it was put into service. So we're looking again to start replacing and bringing things up to compliance. Couple chains for chainsaws, we need to replace those, and a case saw blade. And then miscellaneous appliances are just as, we're looking at changing the way that we bring water to a scene, and looking more, not bringing water, but use water on a scene. We're looking at some quicker and less expensive ways of doing it, as far as using what's called a rural water hitch. And as we do that, we need to make some adapting with some other appliances in order to be able to do that, instead of using porta tanks all the time.
A royal water hitch.
A rural water hitch, which is just basically, instead of putting the porta tank on the ground and pumping the water into the porta tank to pump it out, we're gonna start running 2 lines directly to that engine and feeding those 2 lines. So a tanker will come up and feed a line, and then a tanker will come up, and that tanker will go get one, and a tanker will come up.
So we don't have to plow that area that I do every year? Huh?
If it's a big fire, we'll still
Oh,
use the
okay.
porta tank.
Okay.
But we're looking at ways to be a little bit more streamlined and a little faster. Fire prevention, came down. I hope it'll come down again next year. I'm trying to get Greenville to donate some of the supplies for that. And that's it.
And we don't go to that page.
And then the rest are addendums, which we've already talked about. Right? I don't have anything else.
Again, I mean, just
Do you
throwing
have-
it out there. Any opposition to doing 15 helmets this year, 15 helmets next? Again, I just gotta throw it out there, Meredith, you know,
The only thing I'm concerned about is how far out of the 10-year compliance that they are.
Okay.
So I would rather find some other place to reduce it if I needed to, as opposed to that.
Yeah. Probably a $2,000 lighting.
Well, then I'm already gonna look at that.
Yeah. So,
alright.
safety first, right?
Because I mean, my initial question was asking about all the hoses, because to do all of them at one time, you know, 3 different sizes in 1 year. But
And
if
it
this
was
is the
for-
first year on doing,
And this isn't all by any.
oh no, I know it's not
stretch.
all of them,
Yeah.
you know, so.
So we
but-
bid off a big chunk of, and we bid off a big chunk of 4-inch, and now that
Right.
we've got almost all the 4-inch done, then now we've gotta start on a 2.5 and the inch and 3/4.
Rough number.
We'll wait until you
Yeah.
get back to us
Do
on,
you have, Wendy, did you get all the redemptions?
They do have what?
123,372 is the number I come up with.
121,828.
we're gonna wait till you get back to us, but this is the changes that we made is on, communication went from 6,500 to 5,400. Subscription dues and fees went from 2,300 to 2,200. You also increased, the physicals from 200 to 300.
Yep.
Heat went from 5,500 to 51. And department fuel went from 3,000 to 2,500. And we've, plugged in the current salaries and stipends without a COLA at 43,556.
And then I'm going to look at the vehicle maintenance and see if I can reduce those
Mhm.
based on the tripod and spotlights.
Awesome.
What did you end up with? The number?
I didn't add them up because there's so
John
many
said 121,
fluctuations here.
828.
Yep, 121,828 is the rough number before you look at those other plus, you know, FICA, Medicare, stuff like that won't match up right away, but
I came from 125,872 with just the 4 you changed. But
Don't worry about it.
I'm
Just
not.
Yeah.
It's late.
late.
this is early.
Hey,
It's only 9:35. This is a good one.
Good thing I'm retired. I don't have to go to bed too early. We done?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just gonna ask her a quick question. I'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
wow, man.
Yes.
Very odd, yeah, you should be going.
This was rough. He's gotta stop arguing. It's $300.
Yes, they,
Just think of all the maintenance you're saving on that truck sitting there.
Well, like I said,
Yeah, the mice might be getting in and stopping ripping
Well,
up
listen,
the wiring, but
I remember the initial conversation when he came in asking for, he initially wanted an extended, like a crew cab, extended bed truck. And that truck, and that vehicle was still sitting there. I'm like, and they're explaining why they need it. I said, how much would a trailer cost us to be able to throw the wet hose into the back of a trailer that would be attached to the back of that vehicle? The next thing I know, that vehicle's driving all around town.
in my
all the time.
heydays, I used to put it in my 98 GMC.
Yeah.
1,500, just to get off the scene, because we
So-
were there for 14 hours.
Yeah.
I just
So-
wanted to go home.
No, just
So
It's
it's
like-
just,
Are you talking about the Explorer? Is it Explorer?
yeah.
Isn't that the same Explorer that the police had to get rid of because it was too
No.
costly?
No.
That's gone.
That was gone. That was around, and then that was gone. Which is why, and then they brought up the whole thing about the pick, and I'm like, you don't need an extended bed truck. You know, if you could buy a trailer, throw it on the back of that vehicle, tow it around where you need it. But then, like I said, I used to see that vehicle parked in Greenville across from the diner, you know, a couple
That's the
times, you know,
problem.
and this.
Well, it's the
so-
perception of it too.
Yeah.
We've seen things where
But see, like me, I
highway
mean,
guys moving furniture and, you know.
I had a company card, I had to track every mileage and explain everything and, you know, all my, like, you know, wherever I was home based out of. So from my home to my closest office, I paid for it. I had to make sure, and they would check, they'd go on MapQuest and check. They're like, oh, you went from here to here? Well, why, no. And they would change my mileage. Go, nope, you were 10 miles over what we tracked on MapQuest. And I would have to pay that.
They got those little devices called Hum now, and all you do is plug it right into your diagnostic.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little Hum thing. They'll track it.
Track it, GPS.
Well, you want to get a lower insurance rate, get one of those.
Okay, we done with budgets this evening?
I think so.
The other thing on
I'm
the,
surprised that's the first time he's done that.
Dude, I don't know what's going on. It's very hostile. I just want to get everything done. And we're sitting there nitpicking. I'm nothing against you, Dave. Nitpicking over $300. It's like,
and as I was telling Jay, it's not because of that.
Right.
$300 is nothing.
Right.
You're now setting a policy that any of the department heads can just, at will, go drive where they need and submit an invoice at.
For a bill.
For one invoice that we got from her for driving through town was $50-something. You think that $300 is gonna cover every time they wanna go to a training session? They'll
No.
be far over that.
There was more to that discussion than.
Yeah, that's why.
And I guess I should apologize for bringing it there, because I was the one that brought it up, but.
Nice
anyway.
job, Jim.
Jeez, upset Brian, upset Dan, maybe next
no,
week.
I'm not upset at all.
And Dan, I thought
Good.
you were
I'm
gonna be in the
glad.
hospital.
I appreciate that. Excuse me?
I thought you were gonna be in the hospital.
Next week.
Oh, next week. Oh,
14.
okay.
That, and I'm just praying that there's no storm in the Midwest, because the guy that's got to bring the instrument to do my surgery is from Minnesota. So he's got to bring there, he's coming the night before, because they discontinued the screws.
Wow.
So it's a special tool right from the manufacturer, so I'm just hoping he shows up.
You
Told
can
so,
read my
yeah.
screen when you get a second.
I need to what?
Read my screen.
Read your screen?
Yeah,
Why?
revolving funds.
That's not appropriate.
Does it say anything about, the selectmen putting money into it? The selectmen.
We're
can-
talking revolving.
Let me finish. The selectmen can add money into it, correct? That can be the source of the funds going in. You need to reread it then.
Read the revolving funds, what you can use a revolving fund for.
Well, it depends which section you're in, because one section says you can only use it for certain things, and none of our revolving funds cover that.
They do.
Which
Revolving
section you in?
funds, schools can use them for self-supporting programs. Towns, cities, and village districts have the authority under RSA 35B to establish revolving fund limited to recreation and parkland purposes. During this past legislative session, a new provision of law was added under RSA 3195H, which now authorizes town to establish revolving funds for the following additional purposes: facilitating or encouraging recycling, providing ambulance service, providing public safety services outside the ordinary detail of municipal employees or volunteers, including public safety services in connection with special events, highway construction, and other construction projects. After voting to establishing the revolving fund, the legislative body may vote to deposit into the fund all or any part of the revenue from fees, charges, or other income derived from activities or services supported by the fund, and any other revenues approved by the legislative body.
So that's what Meredith was looking for.
No.
No, that's one with-
No.
That's what you're looking for? Not gonna happen.
Okay,
Yeah. Because I know it's
There's
limited
other-
to certain,
there's revolving funds in a number of places in the RSA. And it also basically gives the town to establish a revolving fund for just about anything.
do me a favor now, because I looked this one up, you show me
I
that
will.
one.
I'll find it and look it
Just shoot
up.
me an email or
You
something.
got it, you got the RSA's online?
Yeah,
Look at 199A. It's a totally different subject, but.
yeah.
Are you still in meeting, or are you? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
It happens.
Two things. One is the approval of the meeting minutes.
That's all right.
That's the one we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw that you started to
Yeah, and then I
sign
wasn't
and
here,
it's-
realizing I wasn't
Ah,
here, so I
okay.
shouldn't have even started.
Motion
signing.
to accept minutes as submitted.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstention. I'll abstain, yes.
Okay. The other item is, what are we going to do about, the process for appointing an emergency management director? We saw one letter of interest. Should we be advertising this?
I think we need to put something out there.
Okay.
I would
One of
agree.
the other people, you don't?
I would.
Oh, would agree. One of the other people that had been brought to our attention, I made sure that they understood they have to put something in writing, that just coming in and saying, I want to do it, doesn't count. So we're supposed to get another one.
Well, I think the right thing is if
Yeah,
we
post it.
post that, yes. Could you draft up a notice? And we should review what the responsibilities are for the emergency management personnel.
Yep. Good with that.
And the other thing I was gonna bring up tonight anyway, and Meredith brought it up, if you want any update on my discussions with Gary and David on the pumper truck,
The
basically
new
what.
one that they're gonna, the warrant article?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the basic thing is, I told them is, you know, much like with the police station, whatever, I said, you gotta give more definitive facts
Right.
on what's going on.
Yeah.
I said, you can't say it's, you know, I said, like, one of the things that I found out is they just replaced a piece on the truck this past year. It is the last piece available of that thing. It's just, they do
Can't
not,
find out.
you can't get another one.
Right.
And it came from all the way out in the Midwest, like Michigan or, you know, South Dakota or something. It just does not exist. You'll never get another one. And it's a part on the truck that will probably break again within the next couple years. It's a wear and tear piece, but you can't get it anymore. I said, you know what? That's something people need to know.
Right.
But one of the pieces that keeps coming up, and Meredith brought it up, is that, you know, it would cost this amount to bring it up to firefighting standards. Yes and no. Yes, it would cost that amount, but it's a twist of the rule, or of the regulation. A new truck, any new vehicle has to meet that
Right.
regulation.
Right.
If you are maintaining an old vehicle, it does not have to meet those
Exactly.
regulations.
Yeah.
So whenever time they say, well, it's gonna cost us this amount, no, it doesn't cost us that amount. And by saying that, and you got other people standing up, fighting against you, immediately it takes away all credibility you have. I said, you've gotta be very straightforward, that these are the regulations that are new. These are the problems with our truck. We don't have to bring it up to this, but that also means that our firefighters are going out in a truck that is not truly safe. You know, like she said, two guys are sitting there with one seatbelt over them, that's not safe. You know, but that was never brought forth. I said, don't stand up there and go, we need a new truck because it doesn't meet regs. No one's gonna listen to you anymore. I said, that's what we heard last year. Put it in writing, make it extremely clear. I said, otherwise, I'm not even gonna back you on it, and I actually think we need one.
Well, and I think the other one, if I recall from last year, it's the age recommendation on a truck that, you know, should be replaced after 10 if you maintained it in your rural, 10 to 15. Well, this one's over 20 already, so I thought it was over 20. I could be wrong, but I remember there was increments and we were already twice what it was.
1990. About
90?
Yeah.
27, yeah,
27
28.
years old, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I just thought, I said, you know, it's gotta be clear, I said, and I looked at Gary, I said, nothing against it, make sure whoever represents you is very clearly
And you know
spoken.
what killed her? I
Yeah.
don't know if we're still on, we're probably still on tape.
No,
We're
Yes.
on tape?
No, this is a recorded
Yeah.
meeting.
yeah,
The video she made was great.
Mhm.
Very, very explanational, you know, showing us the thing. But that morning, to take that engine all waxed up and park it up in front of the fire station, that was the worst thing that I actually seen. I would have buried it.
but, yeah. So, I just thought, I said, you know, that, like, and I told him the exact example, I said, it's exactly what we're doing with the police station. We didn't get it last year because we communicated it wrong. I said, you need to do the same thing with the truck. So, that's where we stand with it, and that's kind of, so they're supposed to be getting bids from like 3 different companies or 4 different companies, something like that, to see what's out there. But I just want to let you know that's where, that I didn't say I'm backing it or not. I said,
Mhm.
I can't until I know that you're gonna do it the right way.
You asked for some Arizona crossing details. That's not all relevant. Some of it is just stuff that my printer spit out for me. I'm not expecting us to put concrete bottom in it. I'm just giving you some diagrams and some ideas on how they work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I got this picture given to me out of the newspaper, and I just have to ask the question, was that a smart decision to drive up there?
Well, considering when you look at what the condition of that road, it's no longer a road,
But-
is.
And that's when you're at the
It
point
wasn't,
of...
it wasn't driving up there when that happened. My understanding,
Dropped in by helicopter?
They dropped it crooked.
they were actually trying to excavate.
I talked to the guy up on the top of the hill, his wife took the picture.
Yeah.
And he said it was driving up the road, and they looked at each other and said, "I'm never gonna make it up here." And he said it wasn't,
Yeah.
10 seconds later, the thing was laying on its side.
I thought they were actually excavating.
I'll discuss it further later, I don't wanna be here all night.
Because the bucket's empty.
Yeah, no, but the back.
I still haven't seen an incident report on that.
Do you have anything else?
I don't, no.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?